You've been lied to about peace. They told you it comes from a perfect life, from finally fixing all your problems, from reaching some faraway future where everything makes sense. But if that were true, why do people who seem to have it all still toss and turn at night? Why do you still feel heavy with thoughts, restless in your own bed, trapped in the same cycle of worry and overthinking? The truth is this: peace isn't waiting somewhere outside of you. It isn't hidden in tomorrow's plans or in someone else's approval. Peace is already here, inside you, and Buddhist wisdom has carried the keys for thousands of years. These aren't complicated ideas. They are simple, gentle phrases. Words that, when you let them sink into your heart, quiet the noise, release the weight, and open the door to stillness. The greatest teachers, the Buddha, monks, and seekers who dedicated their lives to understanding the mind, left behind truths that can help you rest tonight. Not by escaping life, but by seeing it clearly. Tonight, as you listen to these 7 phrases, something inside you will shift. Your breath will soften. Your body will loosen its grip on stress. Your thoughts will begin to dissolve, like clouds drifting across the night sky. And when you wake tomorrow, you'll feel it, lighter, clearer, steadier, ready to face the day, not with tension, but with calm. This isn't just another bedtime story. This is an invitation to discover the quiet strength already inside you. Are you ready? Let's begin. As the moon rests in still waters, may my mind rest in quiet clarity. You've heard the words, you've felt the promise of rest, and now the journey begins. There is something timeless in the way wisdom whispers at night, when the world grows quiet and you are left alone with your breath. These phrases are not decorations of language, they are keys. And if you let them in, they can open doors you did not even know were locked. The first is soft, almost like a lullaby, but within it lies an ocean of depth. As the moon rests in still waters, may my mind rest in quiet clarity. This line carries more than beauty. It carries a teaching about how the mind reflects the world. The moon does not push its light into the lake. It simply shines, and the stillness of water allows the light to appear. Your mind is the same. When it is restless, stirred by endless thoughts, fears, and plans, nothing can be reflected clearly. Everything looks broken, confused, fragmented. But when it becomes still, even for a few moments, clarity reveals itself naturally, not forced, not constructed, simply revealed. Think of how many nights you have laid down, desperate for sleep, only to find yourself turning over worries from the day. Conversations replaying, mistakes magnified, to-do lists piling higher with every thought. In those moments, peace feels like something far away. But here is the truth hidden in this phrase. You don't need to silence the world to rest. You only need to let the water settle. Thoughts will always rise, but you do not need to stir them. You do not need to fight them. Stillness does not mean absence, it means non-resistance. Just as water eventually clears when you stop shaking it, the mind clears when you stop interfering. The moon here represents awareness. It does not force, it does not judge. It simply shines, and clarity is nothing more than allowing your awareness to rest, without chasing, without clinging. When you repeat this phrase, you invite the mind to stop struggling. You give yourself permission to let the day be over. The waters of the mind can rest, and with that rest comes peace. There is also a deeper meaning in the connection between water and reflection. In Buddhist teachings, the mind is often compared to a mirror. A mirror does not choose what to reflect. It simply shows what is there. The problem comes when dust covers the surface. Dust here is attachment, fear, endless chatter. And yet, the mirror is never destroyed by dust. It only needs to be cleaned. Stillness cleans the mirror. Repeating this phrase at night is like wiping away the day's dust, so the mind can shine again. Think about what happens physiologically when you allow the body and breath to slow. The nervous system moves from a state of tension into calm. Heart rate softens, muscles release, stress hormones begin to lower. Science now shows what Buddhist practice has pointed to for centuries. When the body settles, the mind settles. When the mind settles, sleep comes not as a battle, but as a natural falling. This phrase is not just poetic. It is a practical tool, a gentle cue for both brain and body to shift into rest mode. Clarity, the heart of this phrase, is often misunderstood. People believe clarity means figuring everything out, solving every problem before rest. But clarity here does not mean answers. It means freedom from confusion, a space where you can see without distortion. At night, you do not need solutions. You need peace. Clarity is simply knowing that it's enough to rest, that tomorrow does not need to invade tonight. The moon rests in still waters even though the world continues moving. You too can rest even while life continues outside your door. Notice the subtle invitation hidden here. May my mind rest. Not, I will force my mind to stop, but may it rest. It is gentle, it is permissive. It respects the nature of the mind, acknowledging that you cannot beat it into silence. You can only allow, like placing a hand on a restless child and letting them know it's safe to sleep. That is the secret. Stillness is not achieved by violence. It is born from kindness toward yourself. The moon also carries a symbolism in Buddhism that cannot be ignored. It represents enlightenment, the natural purity of awareness that is always there, even if clouds pass across it. You may feel lost, stressed, or overwhelmed, but awareness itself is untouched. The moon never disappears, it only hides behind weather. When you whisper this phrase before bed, you remind yourself, clarity is not something I must create. It is already within me, waiting beneath the clouds of thought. There is comfort in seeing yourself as water, not stone. Stone resists. It stays rigid, unyielding, breaking under pressure over time. Water bends, accepts, adapts, and in that surrender, it becomes powerful. The most unassuming stream can carve canyons given time. The mind, too, grows strong, not by resisting every thought, but by softening, by resting in its natural clarity. This phrase is a training to see yourself as water, gentle yet unbreakable, still yet alive. Think also about how the moon never struggles to shine. It reflects the sun without effort, bathing the night in quiet light. What if your mind could rest the same way, not chasing brilliance, not forcing answers, but reflecting peace simply by being still. You do not need to be extraordinary to rest well. You only need to let go of the constant movement. This phrase holds you like a reminder. Stop stirring, stop grasping, let it settle. Many of us carry guilt into bed. Guilt for not finishing enough, for not being enough, for saying the wrong thing, for not being stronger. That guilt keeps the waters turbulent. But here, this phrase calls you to forgiveness. The day is done. You cannot change what has already passed. To keep spinning it in your head is like throwing rocks into still water and then wondering why the reflection is broken. Tonight, let the rocks go. Let the water rest. Forgive the day. Forgive yourself. Only then will the moon of awareness appear clearly. If you stay with this phrase long enough, it becomes not just words, but a rhythm with your breath. Each inhale allows the mind to open. Each exhale releases turbulence. The body begins to respond, relaxing deeper with every cycle. Repetition is not about chanting endlessly. It is about weaving the meaning into your being until you no longer say the words. You become them. The moon resting, the waters still, the clarity quiet. You embody it. This is also an act of trust. Trust that the world will keep turning while you rest. Trust that you are allowed to let go. Trust that clarity will return when it is needed. For so many, sleepless nights are born from the illusion of control, the idea that by worrying hard enough you can prevent tomorrow's problems. But control is an illusion. The moon controls nothing, yet it lights the night. You do not need control to be safe. You need rest. This phrase helps you surrender to that truth. And there is one more layer. Still waters do not disappear into nothing. They contain depth. Beneath the surface, life is moving, unseen but real. When your mind rests in quiet clarity, you do not lose your depth, you connect to it. Creativity, intuition, emotional healing, all these rise from stillness, not from chaos. By repeating this phrase, you are not emptying yourself. You are reconnecting to the deepest part of yourself, the part untouched by noise. It may feel strange at first to rest with words instead of chasing thoughts, but let the words be like a handrail, guiding you down into calm. As the moon rests in still waters, may my mind rest in quiet clarity. Each time you return, it is another ripple fading away, another cloud passing the moon, another knot untangling in your chest. Until finally, stillness is not something you try to achieve. It is simply there. The breath that leaves me tonight carries away all burdens of the day. And as the waters of the mind grow still, clarity itself becomes a gentle companion, not forced, not chased, but present in its own quiet way. Yet peace is never only about stillness, it is also about release. There is a truth that touches everyone who lies awake at night. The weight of the day follows us, clinging to the body, tightening in the chest, pressing down on the thoughts. What if rest could mean more than lying down? What if rest could mean letting go? This is where the next phrase enters with the softness of breath and the power of release. The breath that leaves me tonight carries away all burdens of the day. The act of breathing has been taken for granted by nearly everyone. It is the most constant rhythm in your life, and yet rarely noticed. And here lies the secret. When breath is ignored, the body holds tension. When breath is noticed, the body finds release. Each exhale is not only an exchange of air, but a natural letting go. The lungs draw in the weight of the world and then release it, cycle after cycle, without demand, without struggle. This phrase calls you to trust that simple truth. Every exhale is a carrier, a vessel that can take with it what you no longer need to hold. In the Buddhist tradition, the breath is more than air. It is life itself, prana, chi, the constant reminder of impermanence. Every breath you take proves that life is here, and every breath you let go proves that holding on is never permanent. When you repeat these words at night, you are not forcing burdens away. You are entrusting them to the natural wisdom of the breath. Just as leaves fall from a tree in autumn, burdens can fall from you through the exhale, one by one, without needing to be picked apart or analyzed. Think of the body at the end of a long day. Muscles tight from effort, mind scattered from decisions, heart heavy from conversations and emotions. In that moment, the exhale is not just a bodily function, it is medicine. Research shows that slow exhalations activate the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering blood pressure, slowing heart rate, sending signals of safety throughout the body. That is no accident. It is proof that your own breath carries within it the power to heal, the power to release. This phrase aligns perfectly with that truth. Every burden has a path out, and that path is the breath that leaves tonight. Burden itself is not only physical, it is mental weight, the replay of mistakes, the worry for tomorrow, the constant whisper that you did not do enough. These burdens do not dissolve through thinking, they dissolve through surrender. The mind will hold on as long as you let it, but the breath does not cling. The breath has no memory. It arrives, it leaves, and it never asks to stay. This is why repeating this phrase creates a shift. It teaches the body and mind together that release is natural. To let go is not failure, it is alignment with the truth of life. There is an ancient teaching that suffering often comes not from what happens, but from holding on too tightly. We carry the sting of words said long ago. We replay fears of what has not yet come. And yet, the body itself shows us another way. You cannot inhale forever. The body demands you let go. This phrase reminds you that in every exhale, there is wisdom. The burdens of today do not need to cross into tomorrow. The night is a border, and the breath is the messenger that carries them away, dissolving them into silence. To practice this deeply, notice how each exhale feels as it leaves you. The chest softens, the shoulders fall, the belly releases. With awareness, even subtle tension begins to unravel. Some carry their stress in the jaw, some in the back, some in the heart. Wherever it hides, the exhale reaches it. With each cycle, it is as though threads of heaviness are being loosened until the burden itself has no grip. You do not push it out, you let the breath carry it, like a river carrying leaves downstream. And there is something profound in knowing that you do not need to solve your burdens to rest. Many lose sleep because they believe they must think their way out of every problem. But rest does not require solutions. It requires release. This phrase offers you permission to allow the breath to do what thought cannot, to take with it the heaviness you cannot reason away, to remind you that not everything must be carried across the threshold of sleep. The breath also connects you to something larger than yourself. Each exhale leaves you and joins the air that moves across the entire earth. In that sense, your burdens are not locked inside you. They become part of the greater flow of life. There is relief in knowing you are not alone in release. Millions are exhaling at this very moment, letting go of their own weight, and in that collective surrender, there is unity. To breathe out is to join the world in its endless rhythm of letting go. Think of the way the body sighs naturally when stressed. That sigh is the body's instinctive attempt to release. It does not need to be taught. It is already wired into your being. This phrase takes that instinct and elevates it into conscious practice. Each breath becomes a deliberate act of surrender. You are no longer just living on autopilot. You are participating in your own liberation, one exhale at a time. It is also important to notice the timing of this practice. At night, before sleep. The day has already given you everything it had to give. The mistakes have been made, the conversations spoken, the choices completed. Nothing more can be added to it, yet the mind insists on dragging the weight forward. To say these words at night is to draw a line, to declare that today is finished, to entrust the breath to carry it all away so tomorrow can begin without residue. This is how rest becomes sacred, how sleep becomes renewal rather than just escape. Even the language of the phrase matters. The breath that leaves me tonight carries away all burdens of the day. It does not say some burdens or only the ones you choose. It says all. It is an invitation to complete surrender, not partial. Often people believe they must cling to worry as proof of responsibility, as though letting go means they do not care. But letting go does not mean neglect. It means you recognize that carrying weight through the night changes nothing but your peace. You can care deeply and still release completely. The exhale teaches this balance better than any philosophy. And if there is doubt that the breath can truly hold this power, look to the monks who have sat for centuries in meditation, using only the breath as anchor. Entire traditions of practice are built on the trust that breath alone can transform suffering into peace. Not because it changes reality outside you, but because it changes your relationship with it inside you. The burdens of the day no longer have chains to bind you when the breath unhooks them one by one. There is also something humbling in realizing that no one is exempt from this truth. Kings breathe, beggars breathe, children breathe, elders breathe. Every exhale carries something away. The phrase is universal. Whether your burden is grief, anger, regret, or simple exhaustion, the breath does not discriminate. It receives it all, carries it all, and releases it into space. In that equality, there is comfort. You are part of the same rhythm that sustains all life. The practice can also extend into gratitude. To exhale is not only to release weight, but to recognize the gift of being able to release. Not everyone has this night, this moment, this chance to let go. Gratitude softens resistance, making the release even deeper. With every breath, you can say silently, "Thank you for carrying this for me. Thank you for teaching me how to let go." Gratitude transforms release from mere mechanics into devotion, into reverence for life itself. As you rest with this phrase, you may notice that the body naturally deepens the breath without forcing it. Like a tide that slowly recedes, each exhale grows longer, smoother, easier. Sleep itself is built on this rhythm. When you enter deep sleep, breathing slows, exhalations lengthen, burdens dissolve into dreams. To consciously begin this process before sleep is to align yourself with the very design of the body. You are not fighting for rest, you are stepping into the current that leads to it. The phrase also carries a reminder of impermanence. Whatever feels unbearable tonight will not feel the same tomorrow. Just as breath never stays, burdens too transform. This recognition softens the grip of fear. You do not need to solve forever tonight. You only need to let tonight's breath carry tonight's burdens. Tomorrow will have its own breath, its own release, its own clarity. This truth prevents the mind from overwhelming itself with endless weight. And so, as you lie down, repeating the phrase, you begin to notice a shift. The day starts to feel distant, like something already fading. The body loosens, the mind stops fighting, the breath takes over the work. You no longer carry the day. It carries you out of tension, out of worry, into the quiet peace of surrender. Burdens are not yours to hold forever. They are only visitors. The breath is the guide that shows them the way out. And in that leaving, you are left with the stillness, the openness, and the rest you were seeking all along. And as the breath carries the weight of the day into the vastness beyond you, what remains is not emptiness but space, a gentle openness that feels almost sacred. This is where the journey turns inward again, not to release, but to discover what has been quietly present all along. There is a phrase that speaks to this hidden treasure. In the silence of this night, I meet the boundless compassion of the present moment. Silence is often mistaken for absence, as though it is nothingness, a void to be filled. But true silence is not empty. It is full, rich with presence. When the chatter of thought softens and the noise of the world fades, what is revealed is something far deeper than the absence of sound. It is the natural compassion that underlies life itself. To meet silence is not to meet nothing. It is to meet the heart of existence without disguise. Compassion is not always understood in its true form. Many believe it means pity or sympathy, but in its deepest sense it is recognition, the understanding that life is shared, that suffering is shared, and that care can rise without condition. In the silence of night, you can feel this truth more clearly than during the day. When distractions fall away, when there is no demand to perform or pretend, the present moment opens, and with it comes compassion, flowing quietly like a hidden river. This phrase is an invitation to stop searching for compassion outside of yourself. So many chase it in the approval of others, in relationships, in recognition. But here, you are reminded that compassion is not something given from the outside. It is already boundless within you, waiting in the stillness of now. When the night grows quiet, when nothing is required of you, the heart remembers its own capacity to care, to forgive, to soften. Meeting compassion in the present moment changes the way the heart holds itself. Often, you may carry self-judgment, regret, or feelings of not being enough. These voices grow loud in the silence of night, But the silence that this phrase points to is different. It is not the silence of isolation, it is the silence of presence. In this silence, judgment dissolves, because there is no comparison, no past, no future, only the fullness of being here. And in that fullness, compassion arises naturally, not as something you must practice, but as something you already are. Psychologists now speak of self-compassion as a vital factor in mental health, reducing anxiety and depression, building resilience. Yet this wisdom was already alive in the teachings of Buddhism long before science named it. When you enter the present moment fully, when silence holds you, you begin to treat yourself with the same tenderness you would offer a child or a friend. The harshness of the inner critic softens, and in its place comes understanding, patience, forgiveness. This is the boundless compassion of which the phrase speaks. The present moment itself is boundless because it is never divided. Past and future are creations of thought. Right now is the only reality, and within it lies an infinity that the mind cannot grasp. When you rest in that boundless space, compassion is not limited by conditions. You do not have to earn it. You do not have to deserve it. It is simply here, available, flowing without end. To meet it is to remember your own nature. There is also a subtle teaching here about the relationship between silence and compassion. Many believe compassion must be loud, expressed in action, in words of comfort, in visible help. But some of the deepest compassion is silent. A quiet presence beside someone in pain. A hand resting on your shoulder with no words at all. The night itself holds you in that kind of compassion. It does not speak. It does not try to fix you. But its stillness offers a kind of embrace. When you listen deeply, you realize that you are already being cared for by the silence itself. This is why stillness at night can be so transformative. During the day, noise drowns out this natural compassion. Responsibilities pull you outward, judgments rise, the mind races. But at night, with silence as a companion, the boundaries fall. You begin to notice not only the tenderness within yourself, but also the tenderness of the moment itself. Life is not against you. The present moment does not reject you. It receives you exactly as you are. This realization is what allows true rest to begin. And when compassion arises in the present moment, it does not stop with yourself. It begins to extend outward, effortlessly. You sense the struggles of others, and instead of irritation or indifference, you feel connected. Even in silence, you know that countless others are lying awake, carrying their own burdens. And in that recognition, your heart opens. Compassion flows outward, even without action. It is not something you do, it is something you allow. There is a story from Buddhist tradition of Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion, who vowed to listen to the cries of all beings. His compassion was said to be boundless, reaching every corner of suffering. When you rest in the silence of night, meeting the present moment fully, you touch that same boundlessness within yourself. You may not save the world, but you can release the tightness in your heart and open to care without limit. This is not mythical, it is practical. Each time you let go of judgment, each time you rest in presence, compassion becomes your natural state. Silence also teaches humility. When you sit in the quiet of night, You realize how vast the present moment is and how small your worries are within it. This does not dismiss your struggles. It puts them in context. The silence of now stretches beyond every story, every fear. To meet that silence is to realize that compassion is not just something you offer, it is something you receive from the very fabric of existence. You are not alone. The universe itself, in its quiet presence, is compassionate. Breath can guide you here as well. When you sit with silence, notice the way breath anchors you. Each inhale welcomes you into the present. Each exhale softens you into release. Within that rhythm, silence deepens. It is not a silence of emptiness, but of fullness, full of care, full of life, full of connection. And in that fullness, compassion is no longer an effort. It is a natural blossoming. Meeting boundless compassion also shifts the way you see others in your daily life. When you know what it feels like to rest in silence and touch the depth of presence, you begin to recognize that same depth in others, even when they are caught in noise. Instead of reacting with anger or impatience, you see the shared humanity, the shared suffering, the shared longing for peace. The silence of night trains your heart to respond differently in the noise of day. And this compassion is not sentimental, it is strong. True compassion does not collapse under the weight of suffering, it holds it with steadiness. When you rest in silence, you realize you are capable of holding far more than you believed, not by effort, but by openness. Boundless compassion is not fragile, it is vast, expansive, unshaken. Meeting it in the stillness of night teaches you that your heart is stronger than you thought, softer than you knew, and deeper than you ever expected. This phrase, repeated at night, becomes a practice of remembrance. Each time you say it, you remind yourself that silence is not an enemy, that the present moment is not empty, and that compassion is not something distant. You meet it here, now, again and again, and each meeting deepens the well until eventually compassion flows naturally, even when you are not aware of it. That is the transformation waiting within these words. In the end, the silence of night is not something to be feared or filled. It is a sanctuary, and within that sanctuary, compassion is the guest who has been waiting for you all along. To meet it is to rest, not just the body, but the heart. To recognize it is to know that peace does not come from escape, but from presence. And to trust it is to discover that even in the darkest night, there is a light that does not fade. The light of boundless compassion, always here, always waiting in the present moment. And when silence opens into compassion, the heart begins to soften in ways that words cannot fully capture. There is a tenderness in realizing that even your deepest struggles are held in an embrace larger than yourself. Yet compassion also carries a quiet reminder: nothing lasts forever. Pain fades, joy shifts, moments dissolve into the next. To resist this truth is to suffer, but to rest in it is to be free. That is where the next phrase guides us, with the beauty of nature itself as teacher. Like petals closing at dusk, I fold into the gentle embrace of impermanence. There is something deeply calming in recognizing that the world is always moving, always changing. Flowers bloom and flowers close. The day rises and the day falls. The body strengthens and the body weakens. This cycle is not cruelty, it is rhythm. And when you learn to fold into it rather than fight against it, rest comes not from control, but from surrender. Impermanence often sounds harsh, as if it takes away everything you love, but the truth is softer than that. Impermanence is what allows beauty to exist in the first place. A flower is precious because it does not last forever. A sunset moves you because you know it will fade. The laughter of a child is sweet because it belongs to a moment that cannot be repeated. To fold into impermanence is to let go of clinging, to stop demanding that things stay the same, and to discover the peace of flowing with life rather than resisting it. At night, this teaching becomes especially important. How many sleepless hours are spent clinging to what cannot be held, regretting words already spoken, wishing for days that will not return, fearing changes you cannot stop? This phrase reminds you gently that everything is already shifting, and that is not a tragedy, it is life. The burden of permanence is an illusion, and when it falls away, the body and mind can finally rest. The metaphor of petals closing carries a softness worth noticing. Flowers do not resist the dusk. They do not fight to stay open. They fold with grace, with trust, with acceptance. In the same way, you are invited to close your day, not with resistance, but with surrender. To accept that this day is ending, that its joys and struggles are complete, and that you too can fold gently into the night. Sleep itself is an act of impermanence. You release consciousness, you surrender control, and yet life continues to hold you. In Buddhist teachings, impermanence is not only a concept, it is one of the 3 marks of existence. Everything you see, everything you feel, everything you hold on to is changing. To deny this is to live in tension, but to embrace it is to discover freedom. Folding into impermanence does not mean you stop loving or caring. It means you love more deeply because you know each moment is a gift that cannot be repeated. When you whisper this phrase at night, you are not saying goodbye to life. You are saying yes to its natural rhythm. Science also confirms this truth in a different language. Neuroscience shows that the brain itself is constantly changing, rewiring through experiences, reshaping through thought, dissolving old patterns, and forming new ones. Nothing in you is fixed. Even the stress that feels permanent tonight is already shifting, already dissolving with every breath. To accept impermanence is to align with the reality of your own biology. You are not static, you are flow. The fear of impermanence often comes from attachment, the belief that happiness depends on holding on to what is pleasant and avoiding what is painful. But this phrase reveals another way. Just as petals close, not in despair but in rhythm, you too can release attachment with grace. The end of a day is not the end of life. The fading of one moment makes space for the rising of another. Folding into impermanence is not loss, it is renewal. When you practice this at night, it changes the way your body receives rest. Instead of carrying the tension of wanting the day to be different, you allow it to close. Instead of resisting the passage of time, you let the night carry you. This surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the strength to recognize that you are part of something larger than yourself, and that larger rhythm will hold you even when you release control. There is also deep comfort in realizing that suffering itself is impermanent. No pain lasts forever. No storm rages without end. Even grief, even heartbreak, shifts and softens with time. To fold into impermanence is to remember that your struggles will not always weigh the same. The night teaches this lesson each time it falls. No matter how bright the day, dusk always comes. No matter how dark the night, dawn always returns. This rhythm is unbreakable, and within it lies hope. The phrase also speaks of gentleness. Fold into the gentle embrace of impermanence, not the harsh grip of change, not the violent tearing away of what you love, but the gentle embrace. This is a reminder that impermanence is not the enemy. It is a holding, a soft wrapping of life's natural rhythm around you. When you allow yourself to be held by it, you discover that there is nothing to fear. You are not falling, you are being carried. In practice, this phrase can become a meditation. As you lie in bed, think of the day as a flower. Its petals have opened fully, showing you its colors, its fragrance, its lessons. Now, as night falls, those petals close. You do not need to force them, you do not need to resist them. You simply let them fold. In that folding, there is rest, and in that rest, there is renewal. Impermanence also reveals the value of presence. When you know that every moment is passing, you stop taking it for granted. You pay attention more deeply. Even in the quiet of night, even in the stillness of lying down, you begin to notice the subtle beauty, the breath, the softness of the sheets, the stillness of the room. These simple details become treasures because you know they too will pass. Folding into impermanence makes every moment luminous, even the most ordinary. There is another teaching hidden here. Just as you fold into impermanence at night, you can also fold into it in life. Relationships change, seasons shift, bodies age, identities evolve. To fight these changes is to exhaust yourself endlessly, but to fold into them is to move with the rhythm of life rather than against it. The petals of your own being open and close in countless ways across a lifetime. To rest in impermanence is to see this not as loss, but as growth. At night, this practice becomes even more powerful because sleep itself is a rehearsal for impermanence. You let go of the day, of identity, of control. You surrender into a state you cannot grasp or command. And yet, you trust it. You trust that you will wake. This is the same trust impermanence asks of you in life. To know that endings are not final, but openings in disguise. To surrender is not to disappear, but to return renewed. Folding into impermanence also brings humility. It reminds you that no matter how tightly you try to hold on, you are part of a larger flow. You are not the master of time, you are a participant in it. And when you accept this truth, a great weight lifts. You no longer need to fight every change, to resist every shift. You can rest, knowing that life itself is carrying you forward, just as dusk carries the flower into rest without its effort. When you repeat this phrase before sleep, let it be more than words. Let it be a practice of release. Feel the body soften as you give permission for the day to close. Feel the mind loosen as you accept that nothing is permanent, not even your worries. Feel the heart open as you recognize that impermanence is not taking from you. It is teaching you how to live fully, how to rest deeply, how to love without clinging. In this way, the phrase becomes a doorway. You step through it each night, leaving behind the struggle to control, entering the embrace of a rhythm larger than yourself. Petals close, day ends, mind softens, body rests. And in that folding, there is no fear, only peace. Impermanence does not destroy, it renews. And when you let yourself be held by it, you discover that rest is not just the absence of activity. Rest is alignment with the very truth of life, that everything passes, and in that passing, everything becomes precious. And when the petals close into the quiet rhythm of impermanence, the heart learns something vital. Release is not loss, but the beginning of peace. The day has folded, the body has softened, the truth of change has been welcomed. Yet even in this acceptance, thoughts often linger, clinging like threads of mist that refuse to disappear. They rise in the stillness of night, memories, worries, fragments of conversation, and they hover until the mind feels clouded once more. This is where the next phrase carries its wisdom like a breath of dawn. Each thought dissolves like mist at dawn, ungrasped, unchained, at peace. There is a kind of mercy in seeing thoughts for what they are, transient, fleeting, without substance of their own. Just as mist drifts across the morning fields and then vanishes as light breaks through, thoughts have no permanence. They appear, they shift, they dissolve. Yet most of the suffering comes when we treat them as solid, when we hold them as if they were permanent realities rather than passing appearances. This phrase is a reminder that you are not bound to the mist. You are the dawn. To understand this more deeply, look closely at the nature of thought. A thought is a spark in the mind, born from memory, habit, or sensation. Left alone, it rises and falls naturally. But when clung to, when repeated, when fed with attention, it thickens into fog. Sleep becomes difficult, not because thoughts arise, but because the mind insists on holding them, turning them into endless stories. The phrase offers an antidote. Allow the thought to dissolve as mist does, ungrasped. The less you chase it, the faster it fades. This is not about suppressing or denying thought. Suppression is another form of clinging, another attempt to grasp control. Dissolving happens when you see thoughts for what they are, insubstantial, empty of weight. Neuroscience reveals that thoughts are electrical patterns, firing through neurons, creating temporary activity. They are not objects, they are processes. And just as no cloud owns the sky, no thought owns you. To rest in this truth is to experience a freedom that does not come from solving thought, but from loosening your grip on it. Unchained means recognizing that thoughts are not shackles unless you believe they are. The mind often convinces you that every thought must be engaged, answered, or resolved. But when you step back, you realize that thought is simply movement, like wind through leaves. The chain is belief. The moment you stop believing every thought is truth, the lock breaks. Sleep comes when the chains are gone, when the mist of thought no longer binds you. At peace is the natural outcome of dissolving. Peace is not the absence of thought, but the absence of entanglement. Even as thoughts arise, peace remains, because you no longer treat them as masters. You watch them come and go, like mist drifting across the valley, beautiful yet impermanent. This shift in relationship is profound. The mind, does not need to be empty to rest. It only needs to stop grasping. In practice, this phrase becomes a meditation of observation. As thoughts appear, you repeat silently, "This, too, will dissolve." You do not fight the thought. You do not argue with it. You do not push it away. You let it rest in the warmth of awareness, the way mist rests in the light of dawn, until it fades naturally. With each repetition, the habit of clinging weakens and the clarity of mind grows stronger. There is also a deeper compassion hidden here. Often you may judge yourself for thinking too much, for failing to control the mind, for being restless when you long for sleep. This judgment adds another layer of thought, thickening the mist further. But when you repeat this phrase, you shift from judgment to kindness. You accept that thoughts arise because you are human, because the mind is alive, because memory is active. There is no failure in thought arising. There is only peace in letting it dissolve. The dawn in this phrase is not only literal but symbolic. Dawn represents awakening, the light of awareness that reveals the true nature of thought. In darkness, mist feels endless, but as the sun rises, it vanishes effortlessly. In the same way, awareness itself is the light that clears the mind. You do not need to battle thought. You only need to bring awareness to it. The very act of noticing loosens its grip. This is how the Buddha described mindfulness. Not to destroy thought, but to see it clearly until it loses its power. Unclenching from thought also has practical effects on the body. Studies show that rumination, repetitive thinking, activates stress pathways, raising cortisol and preventing deep rest. But when thoughts are allowed to dissolve, the nervous system calms, muscles relax, heart rate steadies, breathing deepens. The body reflects the freedom of the mind. Sleep then becomes not a struggle, but a natural unfolding, the body following the mind into peace. There is a story in Zen practice about the mind being like a pond. Thoughts are ripples. When you chase them, you create more disturbance, more waves. But when you allow them to rise and fall, the pond clears on its own. The reflection of the moon, of clarity, becomes visible. This phrase captures that same teaching. Thoughts are mist, not mountains. To treat them as solid is to create suffering. To see their emptiness is to rest in peace. Some may ask, what about important thoughts, plans, or ideas? Should those too dissolve? The answer is yes, for now. Night is not the time to carry the weight of tomorrow. Important thoughts will return with the light of day, stronger and clearer, because they are not forced. Trust the rhythm of mind as you trust the rhythm of nature. Just as dawn disperses mist without effort, the clarity of morning will bring back what truly matters. To release at night is not to forget, but to trust. This phrase also helps to reshape identity. Many believe they are their thoughts, that each arising defines them. But when you see thoughts dissolve, you realize you are not the mist, but the space it moves through. Identity becomes less rigid, less entangled with passing patterns. This realization brings freedom beyond sleep. It touches the core of Buddhist teaching, that self too is impermanent, a collection of shifting processes. Peace comes not from holding identity tightly, but from recognizing its fluidity. There is also beauty in the image itself. Mist is delicate, ethereal, soft. To see thoughts in this way transforms your relationship with them. Instead of fighting them as enemies, you can regard them as mist, light, passing, even beautiful in their impermanence. This gentleness makes release easier because what is soft can be let go without resistance. You do not need to harden against your own mind. You can soften and let it drift away. Over time, practicing this phrase at night changes the habit of thought itself. The mind begins to recognize its own patterns sooner. You notice the rise of worry before it becomes entangled. You release earlier, more easily. This is the cultivation of mindfulness in everyday life. What begins as a practice for sleep becomes a practice for freedom in every moment. Thoughts arise at work, in conversation, in solitude, and you meet them with the same truth. They will dissolve. Peace, then, is not a distant goal. It is always available in the space between thoughts, in the awareness that watches them come and go. To rest in that awareness is to live unchained. The phrase becomes more than words. It becomes a doorway into a state of being where the mind no longer controls you, where the heart rests, where the night carries you gently into sleep. And so, the teaching of mist at dawn is not about erasing thought, but about seeing clearly. Thoughts are passing weather, not the sky itself. They cannot be grasped, they cannot be chained, they cannot last. To realize this is to know freedom, to let the mind rest, and to find peace in the very place where struggle once lived. The dawn comes, the mist dissolves, and in its vanishing, you are left with the quiet clarity of being unbound. And when thoughts melt away like mist before the dawn, the mind is no longer heavy with chains. What remains is a quiet openness, a space where rest can deepen and sleep can arrive without struggle. Yet sleep is not the end of experience. Within it lie dreams, subtle reflections of the mind, carrying traces of memory, fear, and longing. The way we dream can weigh us down or lift us gently. That is why the next phrase carries such tender wisdom. May my dreams be as light as falling leaves, carried by the wind of wisdom. There is a kind of grace in this image. A leaf does not fight the air. It does not resist its fall. It releases from the branch and allows itself to be guided by the wind. In the same way, this phrase asks that your dreams be free of heaviness, not burdened by clinging or fear, but carried by wisdom, drifting softly through the night. Sleep is not only rest for the body, it is a field where the mind continues to wander. By shaping the quality of that wandering, you shape the nourishment that dreams can give. Dreams often mirror the state of the mind. When the mind is restless, dreams are tangled, filled with conflict or chaos. When the mind is softened, dreams can be gentle, carrying images that soothe, that heal, that restore. This phrase is an intention, a way of aligning the heart before sleep so that the world within the night becomes lighter. It is not about controlling dreams, but about releasing the weight that makes them heavy. Just as the leaf falls because it no longer clings to the tree, the mind can dream lightly when it no longer clings to the day. The lightness of falling leaves speaks to freedom from attachment. Each leaf has lived its season, drawn nourishment from the tree, offered shade and color, and now it lets go. Dreams, too, are moments of release. They do not need to carry the unfinished stories of the day. They can let go, dissolve, transform. When you repeat this phrase, you are reminding yourself that the day's burdens are not meant to follow you into sleep. You allow them to drift away so that the inner world of dreams is clear, unbound, free to flow with ease. Carried by the wind of wisdom, this part is essential. It is not any wind, not the random currents of fear or desire, but the wind of wisdom. Wisdom here means the natural intelligence of the mind when it is not clouded. It is the awareness that knows what is harmful and what is healing, what leads to suffering and what leads to peace. When your dreams are guided by this wind, even when challenges appear within them, they are met with clarity rather than confusion. Wisdom shapes the path so that even in the subtle landscapes of dreams, there is direction, there is peace. Psychologists speak of how dreams help process emotion, integrating the day's experiences into memory, making sense of what feels unresolved. But when the mind is consumed with anxiety, this process becomes distorted, producing nightmares or restless sleep. By setting the intention of lightness, you create a different condition for the dreaming mind. Instead of replaying fears, it releases them. Instead of clinging to control, it drifts freely. This is not forced, but invited. The phrase is a gentle offering to your own subconscious, a reminder that wisdom can guide even the hidden parts of you. There is also beauty in the way leaves fall together, not as one, but as many, each following its own path, carried by unseen air. Dreams, too, are countless, flickering images and sensations, each arising and fading. To wish them light is to accept their variety without clinging to any. Some may carry fragments of memory, some may be pure invention, some may dissolve before they are even known. Lightness means you do not grasp at them, you do not cling even in sleep. You allow them to come and go, knowing that their true purpose is not to trap you, but to free you. The symbolism of leaves also reminds us of cycles. A falling leaf is not an ending, it is part of renewal. It enriches the soil, feeds the roots, prepares for new growth. In the same way, dreams are part of renewal for the mind. Even when strange or difficult, they serve a purpose, helping to cleanse and restore. By aligning with the wind of wisdom, you trust that whatever dream comes, it serves renewal. Nothing is wasted. Every fragment contributes to the cycle of healing, of learning, of growth. Dreams as light as leaves also carry the teaching of gentleness. Too often, people fear dreams, dread nightmares, or cling to pleasant visions as if they must hold on to them. This creates tension even in sleep. But when you rest with this phrase, you let go of fear and attachment. You allow even nightmares to be leaves, passing, temporary, dissolving as quickly as they arrive. Fear has less grip when you remember that all dreams are fleeting. None are permanent. None can bind you unless you cling. Wisdom as the wind means there is trust. Just as leaves trust the air to carry them, you trust that your deeper mind knows what is needed. Not every dream will be joyful, but every dream can be light. Even when difficult, it need not weigh you down. The mind, like the forest, has its own intelligence, its own rhythm. Trusting that wisdom allows you to release the need for control and let the night guide you where you need to go. This phrase also opens the door to gratitude. To dream is to be alive, to have a mind that creates, explores, reflects. Many do not remember their dreams, yet the mind still works through them, offering quiet healing. To wish for light dreams is not to demand perfection, but to give thanks for the gift of rest, the gift of renewal. Gratitude itself makes dreams lighter, softening resistance, allowing the heart to settle more deeply into peace. In practice, repeating this phrase before sleep can become a ritual of letting go. You may feel the body sink deeper into the bed, the breath slow, the day's weight fall away. You release control, trusting that the night will do its work. This is not about forcing the mind to dream a certain way, but about offering a direction, like setting a sail. The wind carries the boat, but the sail invites the movement. The phrase is the sail, wisdom is the wind, and dreams are the journey. Dreams are also mirrors of the inner world. If the mind is harsh, they reflect harshness. If the mind is gentle, they reflect gentleness. This phrase turns the mirror toward gentleness, asking for dreams that are light, not heavy, guided by clarity, not confusion. Over time, this changes the way you wake. Instead of rising heavy with unresolved tension, you rise lighter, refreshed, as though the night itself has lifted something from you. And there is a deeper layer still. In Buddhist teachings, dreams can also represent the illusory nature of life. Just as dreams dissolve when you wake, so too do experiences dissolve with time. To see dreams as leaves carried by wisdom is to train the mind to see waking life in the same way, not to cling, not to fear, but to flow with the rhythm of change. The practice in sleep becomes the practice in life. Both are fields of impermanence, both are carried by the same wind of truth. So the phrase is not only a prayer for rest, but a teaching for life itself. To let go of clinging, to trust wisdom, to be carried lightly. Each night you repeat it, you are not only shaping your dreams, you are shaping your mind. You are training the heart to live with less weight, less fear, more trust, more freedom. And as you drift into sleep with these words, you may not control the dreams that come, but you change the way you meet them. Light, free, carried, not trapped, not heavy, not chained. The leaf falls, the wind carries, the forest renews. You sleep, the dreams flow, the heart rests. This is the gift of letting your nights be guided by wisdom. Dreams that are light, and a waking life that is lighter still. And when dreams drift like leaves on the wind, the night itself becomes lighter, a quiet journey where even the hidden mind learns to release. But rest is never only for yourself. What you carry into sleep is shaped by what you gave during the day, and often the heart finds its calm not in what it received, but in what it offered. The next phrase opens the door to this deeper truth. The kindness I offered today ripples outward beyond what I can see. There is a quiet power in kindness that is often overlooked. A word spoken gently, a smile offered freely, a moment of patience when anger was easier. These may feel small in the moment, but they do not vanish. They ripple, moving through others, touching lives in ways you may never witness. This phrase reminds you that the day does not end when you close your eyes. Its energy continues, carried forward through the impact of your choices. To rest in this awareness is to rest in meaning. The image of ripples is important. When a stone touches water, its circles expand outward without effort, moving further than the eye can follow. Kindness works the same way. The one who receives it may carry it to another, and that one to another still. It spreads silently, without announcement, and yet it has the power to transform entire environments. To reflect on this before sleep is to find peace in knowing that your day mattered, that your actions carried weight beyond your sight. Often people underestimate their influence, believing that only grand gestures change the world. But compassion is not measured in scale, it is measured in sincerity. A kind act to one person can shift the tone of their entire day and, in turn, change how they treat those around them. The ripple grows not because you forced it, but because kindness has its own momentum. This phrase invites you to rest in trust of that momentum, to release the need to see results, and instead believe in the unseen impact of your goodness. There is also healing in remembering kindness at night. Many lie in bed replaying mistakes, regrets, harsh words spoken. The mind clings to negativity, overlooking the gentle moments that also defined the day. By repeating this phrase, you redirect the mind's focus. You remind yourself that the day was not only burden, not only error. It held light as well. This shift changes how you enter sleep. Instead of being weighed by guilt, you are lifted by gratitude for what you were able to offer. Kindness, in this sense, is not about perfection. It does not mean you were flawless today, only that you gave what you could. Even the smallest gestures count. Holding a door, listening without interruption, speaking softly when you could have been harsh, all of these ripple outward. This phrase invites you to see the quiet beauty in those small moments, to know that they matter, even if no one thanked you, even if no one noticed. Their effect continues, carried forward in ways you will never fully know. Psychology has shown that kindness benefits both giver and receiver. Acts of care release oxytocin, lower stress, and strengthen emotional resilience. To reflect on kindness before bed is to feel those benefits twice, once in the act itself, and again in the remembering. It is as though the ripples return to you, soothing the nervous system, calming the heart, preparing the body for rest. Sleep comes easier when you know that your presence in the world has created goodness. There is also a deep alignment here with Buddhist teachings. In Buddhism, generosity and compassion are not just virtues, but practices that create positive energy, or merit, which continues long after the act. It is said that a single moment of genuine kindness can outweigh countless selfish actions, because its impact does not stop with one person. It moves into the fabric of life itself. This phrase, repeated at night, connects you to that teaching. It reminds you that every act of care plants a seed, and seeds grow whether or not you see the fruit. Resting in this truth changes the way you see yourself. Many people lie awake doubting their worth, feeling insignificant, unseen. But when you remember the kindness you offered, you see evidence of your value. You realize that your existence has touched others in ways that cannot be measured. Worth is not in accomplishments or possessions. It is in the ripples you send through kindness. To hold this before sleep is to rest in dignity, in quiet confidence that you are part of something larger. The phrase also teaches patience. Ripples take time to spread. You may never see where they reach, and that is part of the practice, to let go of the need for recognition. True kindness does not demand a return. It trusts that its energy will find its way, just as water carries ripples across its surface without being told. This patience brings peace, because it frees you from expectation. You can rest knowing that your offering was enough without needing proof. There is beauty in reflecting on kindness as a form of legacy. Every day you shape the world around you, not with dramatic actions, but with consistent ripples. Long after your words are forgotten, their effect continues in the lives they touched. At night, when the mind often questions meaning, this phrase brings reassurance. It reminds you that nothing good is wasted. Even the smallest kindness today continues beyond you, into tomorrow and beyond, woven into lives you may never meet. In practice, repeating this phrase before bed can become a meditation of gratitude. You can recall specific moments of kindness from the day, not to inflate your ego, but to acknowledge that goodness flowed through you. You can allow that memory to settle into the body, feeling the warmth it creates, the release it brings. In this way, the phrase is not abstract. It is lived, felt, embodied as you drift into rest. The ripple also includes kindness shown to yourself. Too often, people forget that compassion begins inward. The way you spoke to yourself, the patience you offered to your own mistakes, the rest you allowed yourself to take, all of these are ripples too. They shape how you meet the world tomorrow. To remember this at night is to recognize that your inner kindness is not selfish, but foundational. It strengthens the ripples you send outward. Kindness as a ripple also changes how you see difficulty. Perhaps today was heavy, perhaps conflicts arose, perhaps pain was present. Yet, even in difficulty, a single moment of kindness creates contrast, like light breaking through clouds. That light spreads further than the shadow. To rest in this awareness is to trust that no matter how challenging the day, goodness was not absent. It flowed, and it continues to flow. And there is one more truth hidden here. Kindness multiplies. When you give it, it inspires others to give. One ripple becomes many, spreading across the waters of human connection. This is how communities are built, how hope is sustained, how change takes root. To know that your actions contribute to this larger movement is to feel connected, even when you lie alone in the quiet of night. You are part of something vast, carried forward by every ripple of kindness ever offered. So, as you close your eyes with these words, let yourself rest in the knowledge that the day did not disappear. It continues through the echoes of your care. The kindness you gave is not gone. It is alive, moving, touching others beyond your sight. To sleep with this awareness is to sleep with peace, knowing that your life is not just lived for yourself, but woven into the lives of countless others. The ripples extend, the circle widens, and even in the stillness of night, the movement of kindness carries on. And as the ripples of kindness extend into places you will never see, the night carries you toward another truth. Peace is not only found in what you give, but also in what you release. The heart may be softened by compassion, Yet the mind often clings to control, replaying what could have been done differently or what must happen tomorrow. Control feels safe, but it is also the very weight that keeps rest far away. This is why the next phrase enters like a balm. As I surrender to rest, I release the illusion of control. The sense of control is deeply woven into daily life. People plan, organize, adjust, and strategize, believing that if they hold tightly enough, nothing will fall apart. Yet, control is often an illusion. Weather shifts, people change, outcomes unfold in ways no one predicted. The tighter the grip, the greater the exhaustion. At night, this exhaustion shows itself most clearly when the body longs to rest, but the mind refuses to release its grip. This phrase offers a new path: surrender not as defeat, but as liberation. To surrender to rest is not weakness. It is an act of wisdom, a recognition that the body already knows what to do. Sleep is not forced. It arrives naturally when you stop interfering. The same is true for life itself. Many struggles are born not from what happens, but from the insistence that life obey a personal script. By repeating this phrase, you remind yourself that control is not needed for safety, that rest comes when you trust the natural rhythm of existence. Releasing the illusion of control is also about softening fear. The mind tells endless stories. What if tomorrow fails? What if mistakes return? What if things collapse? These fears keep the grip tight, but in truth, no amount of clinging prevents change. What prevents peace is the belief that clinging is necessary. When you surrender, you discover a freedom greater than safety, the freedom to rest without conditions, to know that even if tomorrow brings challenge, tonight can still bring peace. Science supports this in its own way. Studies show that hypervigilance, the need to stay alert and in control, disrupts deep sleep. The nervous system remains in a state of tension, as though guarding against imagined threats. But when the body receives the signal of surrender, when the mind releases control, the parasympathetic system engages. Muscles relax, heart rate slows, hormones shift toward balance. Control was never the guardian of rest. Release was. The illusion of control is particularly visible at night because there is nothing left to do. The tasks are complete, the conversations ended, the opportunities of the day closed. Yet the mind keeps rehearsing, as if planning can rewrite what has already passed. This phrase cuts through that habit. It reminds you that the day is already gone, that the future has not yet arrived, and that control exists only as thought. To see this clearly is to step out of illusion and into truth. Surrender here does not mean neglecting responsibility. It means recognizing limits. There is a boundary between what can be shaped and what cannot. During the day, you act. At night, you release. To confuse the two is to live in tension. To honor the rhythm is to live in harmony. This phrase is the bridge between action and release, a way of telling yourself, the work is done. Now let the night hold what I cannot. There is also humility in this teaching. Control often grows from pride, the belief that only through constant effort can things turn out right. But humility sees the larger picture. Life has carried you through countless nights without your command. The heart has beaten, the lungs have breathed, the body has healed wounds and restored energy, all without your control. To remember this is to see that surrender is not giving up. It is returning to trust in what has always sustained you. This phrase also helps untangle the mind from regret. Control feeds on the idea that if you had done more, been sharper, acted differently, the day would have been better. But regret is just another illusion of control, an attempt to rewrite the past through thought. When you say these words, you remind yourself that the past no longer belongs to you. It has dissolved, just as dreams dissolve in morning light. Rest begins when you release the need to carry yesterday into tonight. The release of control also changes how you meet the unknown. Many resist sleep because it feels like a kind of surrender to the dark, a step into a space they cannot direct. But sleep itself is the teacher of this truth. You do not choose when it begins, you do not command when it ends. You fall into it, and it carries you. The same is true of life's larger flow. To surrender is to live in alignment with that truth, to recognize that not everything needs your hand on it to unfold as it should. This teaching is echoed in countless spiritual traditions. In Buddhism, the idea of non-attachment is central, the understanding that clinging creates suffering, while release creates peace. In Taoist wisdom, the principle of Wu Wei teaches effortless action, trusting the current rather than forcing against it. In the Stoic philosophy, there is the distinction between what is within your control and what is not. Across cultures, the message repeats. Freedom comes not from control, but from knowing when to release it. Repeating this phrase before bed becomes an act of self-compassion. It tells your body, you no longer need to fight. It tells your mind, you no longer need to solve. It tells your heart, you no longer need to carry. These reminders shift the entire inner world, creating the conditions where rest is not a struggle, but a return. Each night becomes a rehearsal for trust, each repetition a loosening of chains. Even in daily life, this practice extends. When you learn to release control at night, you begin to release it during the day. You meet setbacks with less panic, conversations with more patience, outcomes with more grace. The illusion weakens, and in its place arises a steady calm, a confidence not in your control, but in your ability to meet life as it comes. The phrase also speaks to love. Control often arises in relationships, the urge to shape how others behave, how they respond, how they live. But true connection is not built on control, it is built on freedom. When you release control, you give others the gift of space, of authenticity, and in return, you find that your own heart rests more easily, no longer burdened by the impossible task of managing another's path. Finally, there is deep comfort in knowing that surrender is not the end of power, but the beginning of wisdom. To rest each night in release is to practice letting go in life itself, of plans, of outcomes, of the illusion that you must hold everything together. The truth is simpler. Life carries you, just as sleep carries you. Control was never the source of safety. Trust has always been. And when you let go into that trust, you discover a rest that no amount of effort could ever give. So tonight, as you whisper this phrase, let its truth seep into you. As I surrender to rest, I release the illusion of control. Let the grip loosen, let the weight fall, let the night carry what you cannot. And in that surrender, discover the peace that comes not from holding on, but from finally letting go. And when the weight of control is finally released, what rises in its place is not emptiness, but an openness that feels infinite. In that surrender, the night becomes vast, and above you the stars shine in quiet brilliance. Their presence has always been there, untouched by your struggles, untouched by your attempts to hold on. They remind you of something essential, something often forgotten in the noise of daily life. The stars above remind me of my true nature, luminous, spacious, and free. There is a reason stars have captivated hearts across every culture and every age. They are distant, yet they feel intimate. They burn with light, yet they rest in silence. To look at them is to remember that existence itself is larger than the mind's narrow concerns. This phrase points to that same remembering, not of something outside you, but of your own nature. Luminous, because within you there is a light that cannot be extinguished by failure or fear. Spacious, because the mind is not the small box of worries it often seems to be, but an endless sky in which thoughts come and go. Free, because at your core you are not bound by the stories you tell yourself, not trapped by circumstances, but already whole. To call yourself luminous is not a metaphor alone. Light is a symbol of awareness. No matter what shadows fill your life, awareness itself shines untouched. Thoughts, emotions, and struggles may obscure it, but they cannot stain it. In Buddhism, this is sometimes called the clear light of mind, a natural clarity that is present in every moment, whether you notice it or not. When you recall the stars, you recall that same clarity within yourself. Even on cloudy nights, the stars remain. Even on stormy days, your awareness remains. The recognition of this light is the beginning of peace. Spaciousness speaks to the boundless quality of mind. When caught in worry, the mind feels cramped, suffocating, as if there is no room to breathe. But when you step back, when you notice awareness itself rather than the objects within it, a vastness opens. Thoughts are like passing clouds, emotions like shifting weather, but the space that holds them is unchanging. To rest in that space is to know freedom from entanglement. You do not need to fight every thought. You do not need to hold every feeling. There is space enough for all of it, and in that space, nothing overwhelms. Freedom is the natural expression of this luminosity and spaciousness. When you recognize that your true nature is light and space, you see that nothing can truly bind you. Circumstances can shape experience, but they cannot define your essence. You are not the fear, not the regret, not the identity you cling to. You are the awareness in which they arise and pass. This awareness is not bound, not limited. It is free, even when the body is tired, even when the mind is restless. To remember this is to remember that peace is already here. The stars themselves embody impermanence and eternity at once. Each one burns for millions of years, yet eventually fades. Their light travels across unimaginable distances, some of it reaching you long after the star itself has died. In the same way, the kindness, wisdom, and love within you extend far beyond your immediate life. The ripples of who you are reach further than you can see. This awareness brings both humility and strength. Humility because you are part of a vast universe. strength, because your essence is connected to that same vastness. Science gives its own affirmation of this truth. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of stars. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen you breathe, all of it was born in stellar explosions billions of years ago. To say the stars remind you of your nature is not poetry alone, it is science. You are literally stardust, luminous by origin, spacious by design, free by essence. When you look up, you are not looking at something separate. You are looking at yourself reflected on a cosmic scale. This phrase also counters the feeling of smallness that often arises in life. Daily struggles can make you feel trapped in routines, defined only by problems, insignificant in the face of the world. But when you recall the stars, you recall scale. You remember that life is both fragile and vast, that your worries, though heavy, are passing within a universe that is boundless. This does not make your struggles meaningless. It puts them in perspective. It frees you from drowning in them, showing you that beyond every thought is a sky too wide to be confined. The luminous nature of your being is also a guide for how you live. Just as stars shine without demanding recognition, your awareness shines without effort. When you live from this place, your presence itself becomes light for others. You do not need to fix the world single-handedly. Your clarity, your calm, your kindness, these are rays of light that ripple outward, often unseen but always felt. To rest in this recognition before sleep is to rest not only in peace, but in purpose. Spaciousness, too, becomes practical. When you feel overwhelmed, remember the space between thoughts. Notice the pause between breaths. Within those pauses, vastness is present, waiting. You are not as confined as you believe. Space exists even in tension, and when you learn to rest in that space, the grip of overwhelm loosens. At night, this awareness makes room for sleep. By remembering that you are not trapped, you soften into the natural openness of being. Freedom, the final quality, is the fruit of this remembering. To be free does not mean to escape responsibility or difficulty. It means to know that no matter what arises, it does not define you. You can meet joy without clinging, pain without collapsing, uncertainty without panic. Freedom is not about control. It is about release into your true nature. To rest in freedom is to rest as you truly are, before identity, before story, before fear. This phrase can become a meditation in itself. As you lie in bed, recall the stars. Feel their stillness, their distance, their quiet light. Whisper the words to yourself, not as poetry, but as truth. Luminous, spacious, free. Allow those qualities to settle into your body, into your breath, into your mind. Let the boundaries soften. Let the heart open. Let the awareness expand. In that state, sleep becomes not just rest, but a return to essence. The practice of remembering your true nature transforms not only sleep, but waking life. Each time you recall the stars, you anchor yourself in something larger than fear, larger than identity. You begin to live with more ease, more patience, more trust. You stop clinging to the illusion of being small and trapped. You start living from the recognition that you are already part of the infinite, already luminous, already free. So tonight, when the stars shine above, Let them not only decorate the sky, but mirror your own being. Their light is your light. Their space is your space. Their freedom is your freedom. To rest in this remembrance is to rest in the truth that has always been yours. You are luminous, spacious, and free. And when the stars remind you of the light and freedom already alive within you, another truth begins to unfold. Freedom is not only found in knowing your vast nature, but also in learning how to release what you cannot hold. Light shines, space expands, but the heart still clings to moments, to people, to possessions, to identities. This is where the next phrase speaks with quiet strength. With each exhale, I bow to the truth that nothing is mine to keep. There is something both humbling and liberating in these words. Every breath you take proves the teaching. You draw in air for a moment. It fills you, sustains you, and then it leaves. No matter how much you desire to keep it, you cannot. Life itself is built on this rhythm of taking in and letting go. To bow with each exhale is to honor this truth, to align your body and mind with the reality that all things, no matter how precious, pass through you. Clinging is the source of much suffering. The mind wants permanence, wants security, wants possession. It grasps at love, at youth, at status, at comfort, believing that if it can hold tightly enough, the pain of loss will never arrive. But clinging cannot stop impermanence. It only makes its arrival more painful. To breathe with this phrase is to practice loosening that grip, to recognize that nothing can truly belong to you, not even the body, not even the breath. This does not mean life is empty of meaning. Quite the opposite. When you accept that nothing can be kept, every moment becomes more precious. A conversation, a smile, a sunset, none will last, and that is what gives them value. If they were yours to keep forever, their beauty would dull. It is their fleeting nature that makes them shine. Bowing to this truth with each exhale transforms fear of loss into gratitude for presence. Even relationships, the bonds most deeply cherished, carry this truth. People you love cannot be held forever. They grow, they change, they leave, and one day they pass. To deny this is to live in fear. To accept it is to love more fully, without demand, without ownership. You do not keep them, you share the moment with them. This is the freedom the phrase points to. Love without chains, appreciation without clinging, care without possession. Material possessions also reveal the illusion of ownership. You may guard them, polish them, even define yourself by them, yet eventually they slip from your hands. They decay, they are lost, they pass to others. To bow to this truth does not mean rejecting comfort or beauty. It means seeing clearly that they are visitors, not permanent companions. You can enjoy them fully without being enslaved by the need to keep them. Even your identity is not yours to keep. The roles you play, the titles you carry, the stories you tell about who you are, all of them shift. The child becomes the adult, the student becomes the teacher, the strong body becomes frail. When you believe identity must be fixed, change feels like death. When you see it as shifting, like breath, change becomes natural. To bow with each exhale is to honor this flow, to let yourself transform without fear. In Buddhist practice, bowing itself is a gesture of humility. It is not about submission to another, but about recognizing the truth beyond the self. To bow with each exhale is to surrender arrogance, to release the illusion of control, to acknowledge that life is borrowed, not owned. This simple act softens pride and replaces it with reverence. Science, too, reflects this reality. The body is not static. It is in constant exchange with the environment. Cells die and renew, molecules enter and leave, atoms are borrowed and returned. Even your sense of self is built on impermanent processes of the brain, constantly rewiring and reshaping. To believe you own any of it is illusion. The exhale reminds you, everything flows, nothing is held. This phrase also changes how you meet endings. Many resist closure, clinging to what once was, resenting what is gone. But when you bow with each exhale, you practice release continuously, not only when endings come. The small letting go of each breath prepares you for the larger letting go in life. It becomes less frightening, less shocking, because you have rehearsed it with every moment. The practice also heals regret. The mind clings to past mistakes, refusing to let them dissolve. Yet the past cannot be kept either, not even the parts you wish to change. Bowing to this truth allows you to let regret exhale, to accept that what is gone cannot return, and to free yourself from carrying it into the present. Forgiveness often begins with this recognition, that the past is not yours to keep. There is comfort, too, in realizing that your pain is not permanent. Grief, sadness, anger, these feel endless when you are inside them, but they are also subject to the law of impermanence. They arise, they peak, they fade. To bow with each exhale is to trust that even what feels unbearable will pass. Nothing, not even suffering, is yours to keep. This practice does not lead to detachment in the cold sense of indifference. It leads to deeper engagement. When you know something cannot last, you pay attention more fully. You cherish it. You live inside it. Each moment becomes sacred. Far from making life dull, impermanence makes life luminous. Bowing to it transforms ordinary experiences into treasures. At night, when thoughts circle and cling to unfinished tasks, this phrase becomes a tool of release. With each exhale, you bow inwardly to the truth that the tasks are not yours to keep. The day is finished. Its actions cannot be held or undone. The body softens as it accepts this. The mind loosens its grip, and sleep comes not as escape, but as alignment with reality. There is also a spiritual depth in this practice. To bow with each exhale is to recognize that you belong to the flow of life itself. You are not separate, not isolated, not a permanent possessor. You are part of a cycle, giving and receiving, rising and dissolving. This perspective dissolves loneliness because you realize everything you touch, everything you love, is part of the same rhythm. Nothing is kept, everything is shared. Even death, the great fear, becomes less heavy through this practice. Every exhale is a small rehearsal for the final release. Each time you let go, you are preparing yourself for the truth that one day you will let go entirely. But instead of filling life with dread, this practice fills it with presence. You stop postponing living. You stop waiting for permanence. You live now, fully, because you know nothing is yours to hold forever. So when you whisper this phrase, Let it be more than words. Let each exhale become an offering, a bow to truth, a surrender into freedom. You cannot keep the breath, the body, the possessions, the relationships, the moments. And because you cannot, you can love them more, honor them more, release them more gracefully. The bow is not loss. The bow is reverence. The bow is freedom. In this way, rest becomes more than sleep. It becomes a practice of release, a nightly reminder that peace is not found in what you hold, but in what you bow to and let go. Each exhale is both farewell and gift, dissolving the illusion of ownership and opening the heart to gratitude. Nothing is mine to keep, and in that truth lies the deepest rest of all. And when every exhale becomes a bow to the truth that nothing can be held forever, the heart begins to soften into an even greater openness. Release reveals a vastness inside that cannot be owned or diminished, a space wider than the burdens you carry. This is where the next phrase guides you with quiet certainty. The day's struggles dissolve into the vastness of the sky within. There is something profoundly healing about this vision. Struggles feel heavy when they are contained in the small frame of thought, circling in the mind with no escape. But the moment they are placed against the vastness of inner sky, they shrink, just as clouds, no matter how dark, cannot overwhelm the infinite space above them. Your struggles cannot overwhelm the spacious awareness that holds them. The phrase invites you to remember that the true measure of your being is not your problems, but the boundless sky of mind in which those problems arise. The struggles of the day often feel final, an argument, a mistake, a pressure unresolved. Yet, when you rest in the vastness of awareness, their solidity dissolves. They lose their sharpness, their weight, their permanence. They become movements, temporary weather patterns drifting through a sky that is never harmed by them. This truth is not abstract. It can be felt. When you turn attention inward and notice the space around thought, you begin to sense the openness that has been here all along. In that openness, struggles dissolve naturally, not because they were solved, but because they were never as solid as they appeared. The mind often mistakes thoughts for reality, building walls from them, trapping itself inside. But the sky within has no walls. It is unbounded, expansive, without edge. When you rest in it, every struggle becomes lighter. The phrase is a reminder to look not at the storm, but at the space that holds the storm. To expand your vision until the weight disperses, until the tension loosens. Just as no storm lasts forever, no struggle stays without end. The sky remains, vast and unbroken. Psychology points to the same wisdom. Mindfulness practices often guide people to observe thoughts rather than identify with them, to notice emotions without becoming them. This shift creates distance, which lessens suffering. The phrase captures this truth in poetic form. By resting in the vastness within, you are no longer trapped inside the story of struggle. You are the witness, the openness, the presence that allows it to move through. The vastness of the inner sky is not empty. It is alive with awareness, luminous with clarity, receptive to everything without being bound by anything. To recognize this is to experience freedom. Struggles dissolve because they cannot stick to something without surface. Awareness is not a wall, it is space. To rest in space is to rest in freedom. At night, this awareness becomes especially powerful. The day's struggles often return when the body lies still, circling endlessly, demanding attention. But the more you focus on them, the heavier they become. By recalling the phrase, you shift your perspective. You no longer wrestle with the struggles. You allow them to dissolve into the sky within. You feel the release in your body as muscles unclench, in your breath as it deepens, in your mind as it opens. Sleep then becomes not a battle, but a return to spaciousness. This practice also reshapes how you carry challenges in waking life. When you know the sky within is always available, struggles lose their power to define you. They remain experiences, not identity. You are not the burden, you are the space that holds it. This realization does not remove difficulty, but it removes despair. Even in the heaviest moments, the vastness remains untouched. Knowing this gives you strength, resilience, and calm. There is also compassion in this view. When you see your own struggles dissolve into vastness, you begin to see the struggles of others in the same way. You recognize that their pain, too, is temporary weather, not the entirety of who they are. This shifts your response from judgment to understanding. You see the person, not just their storm. You meet them with patience, knowing that the sky within them is just as vast as yours, waiting to be remembered. The phrase also carries an invitation to humility. The struggles of the day often feel like the center of the universe, consuming all attention. But when placed against the vastness of inner sky, they are revealed as small, temporary movements. This does not dismiss their importance, but it restores perspective. You remember that life is larger than today's conflicts, larger than today's worries. This perspective is not escape, it is clarity. It allows you to meet struggles with wisdom rather than panic. Science offers a parallel in the study of the brain. When stress dominates, the amygdala, responsible for fear and reactivity, overwhelms other regions. But practices that expand perspective activate the prefrontal cortex, calming fear and increasing clarity. The phrase reflects this process. By expanding into the vastness of the inner sky, you quiet reactivity and awaken clarity. Struggles dissolve not because they disappear, but because they lose the exaggerated weight the fearful mind gave them. This phrase can also be seen as a form of inner bowing. To acknowledge the vastness is to acknowledge that you are not only your thoughts, not only your struggles. You are something wider, something that cannot be reduced. To repeat these words is to bow to your own infinite nature, to honor the space that holds everything without being diminished. This reverence itself dissolves struggle, because struggle thrives only when you forget your vastness. Dreams, too, are shaped by this practice. When struggles dissolve into vastness, they do not follow you into the night with the same intensity. The dreaming mind reflects the spaciousness you carry. Nightmares soften, rest deepens, and sleep becomes a continuation of practice. The sky within is not only a metaphor, it is an actual condition of mind that shapes your nights as much as your days. Over time, this practice builds a new habit. Instead of collapsing under struggles, you learn to expand around them. Instead of shrinking into fear, you remember space. Each night strengthens this habit. Each repetition of the phrase plants it deeper. Eventually, even in waking moments of stress, you recall, the sky within remains vast, The struggle is only passing cloud. And so the phrase is not only a comfort for the night, but a way of living. To let struggles dissolve into vastness is to walk with more ease, more patience, more resilience. It is to live as the sky rather than as the storm. At night, this truth carries you into rest. By day, it carries you into freedom. So tonight, let the struggles of the day dissolve. Let them fade into the sky within, vast and unbroken. Do not shrink into the storm. Remember the sky. In that remembrance, rest will come, not because the world is solved, but because you have returned to the boundless space that has always been your true home. And when the weight of the day dissolves into the wide sky within, what remains is clarity, a spaciousness that feels unshaken by the passing storms. Yet even in that openness, the night can feel long, and the mind can wander back into old patterns of restlessness or fear. This is why the next phrase arrives as a gentle protector, a guide to hold you steady in the quiet hours. May the flame of mindfulness guard my sleep as a lantern in the dark. There is comfort in this image. A flame is small, fragile in appearance, and yet its light pushes back entire fields of darkness. It does not shout. It does not struggle. It simply shines, steady and unwavering. Mindfulness works in the same way. It does not need to erase every thought, nor does it demand perfection. It glows with quiet awareness, keeping you present enough not to be swallowed by the shadows of worry, memory, or fear. When you hold to this flame before sleep, the mind finds direction, like a traveler guided through the night by a lantern. Mindfulness is often misunderstood as rigid focus or forced concentration. In truth, it is a soft attention, a gentle remembering to stay here, now. At night, when the mind wants to wander into tomorrow's tasks or yesterday's mistakes, mindfulness brings it back, not harshly, but with patience. It says, "Stay close, breathe, let the moment hold you." This is the flame guarding your rest. It does not eliminate darkness. It keeps you from being lost in it. Sleep itself is a passage, and like any passage, it can feel uncertain. The body releases control, the mind loosens its grip. Awareness slips into dreams. For many, this transition stirs unease. But mindfulness is the lantern that lights the way. It reminds you that surrender is safe, that the night is not an enemy, that even in unknowing, there can be calm. Repeating this phrase is a way of placing that lantern beside you, trusting its light to guide you through the threshold of rest. The flame also speaks to continuity. Each night may feel separate, but life itself is one continuous flow. The mindfulness you practice during the day carries into the night. If you meet conversations, tasks, and challenges with presence, that same presence follows you into sleep. The flame does not extinguish when the sun goes down. It continues, guarding your rest just as it steadied your waking hours. In this way, the phrase is not only a prayer for the night, but a reminder of the day's practice made whole. Science offers its own reflection of this truth. Studies on mindfulness meditation show its impact on sleep quality, reducing rumination and calming overactive brain patterns. By grounding the mind in present awareness, mindfulness interrupts the cycles that keep people awake. The metaphor of the flame is not only poetic, but practical. Presence reduces anxiety, slows the nervous system, and prepares the body to release into deeper rest. To bow to this truth each night is to align with what both tradition and science affirm. There is also symbolism in the lantern itself. A lantern does not flood the entire path with light. It reveals only what is near. This is enough. You do not need to see the whole road to walk it. You only need enough light to take the next step. In the same way, mindfulness does not offer you the certainty of tomorrow. It offers you the clarity of this breath, this moment. That is enough to lead you into peace. To trust this is to sleep without demand for control, guided by the gentle light you already hold. The flame is also a reminder of fragility and care. A flame needs tending. If neglected, it may fade. If smothered, it disappears. Mindfulness, too, requires gentle care. Not force, not pressure, but steady attention. By repeating this phrase, you commit to nurturing that flame, even in rest. Each breath is like a small offering, feeding the flame, keeping it steady. Over time, this becomes less an effort and more a rhythm, the natural glow of presence alive within you. At a deeper level, the flame symbolizes wisdom itself. In many Buddhist traditions, the lamp or flame is a metaphor for awakening, for the clarity that dispels ignorance. To ask that this flame guard your sleep is to trust wisdom to watch over you, even when your conscious mind has let go. It is to rest in the faith that awareness itself remains, luminous even in dreams, untouched even in darkness. This is not about control, but about trust in the deeper nature of mind. The phrase also carries humility. Darkness is part of life. No one escapes it. No one avoids it entirely. To seek a flame in the dark is to acknowledge vulnerability, to admit that you need guidance, and that guidance can come from within. This humility itself softens the mind, allowing rest. Pride insists on controlling the night. Humility allows itself to be guided, and in that surrender, peace grows. The lantern does not only serve you, its light naturally extends to others. When you carry mindfulness into your sleep, you wake with more calm, more patience, more clarity. These qualities ripple outward into your relationships, shaping how you meet the world. The flame that guards your rest also becomes the flame that warms your presence with others. In this way, the phrase expands beyond personal peace. It becomes a contribution to the wider world. There is another subtle teaching here. Darkness itself is not evil, only misunderstood. The night, like the mind, holds both silence and fear, both peace and shadows. The flame does not banish the dark. It transforms your relationship to it. With the lantern of mindfulness, the dark becomes less threatening, more spacious, even comforting. You learn that peace does not come from eliminating darkness, but from walking through it with light. In practice, this phrase can guide a simple meditation before bed. You close your eyes, breathe softly, and repeat the words. With each exhale, you picture the flame, steady and warm. You let it guard the boundary between waking and sleep. When thoughts arise, you see them as shadows briefly touched by the light, then passing. You rest in trust that the flame is enough, that presence itself is the guard you need. Sleep then becomes less about escaping and more about entering with guidance. Over time, this nightly practice reshapes your experience of rest. Anxiety loosens its hold, nightmares lose their grip. Waking in the night becomes less frightening. Even moments of wakefulness can be filled with calm because you know the flame is still with you. The phrase becomes more than words. It becomes an anchor, a light you carry inside. And beyond the night, this practice shapes life itself. To carry the flame of mindfulness is to walk through challenges without being blinded, to meet uncertainty without collapsing, to bring light into every dark corridor of existence. Rest is one place where it begins, but its reach is endless. So tonight, let the flame be with you. Let mindfulness guard your sleep as a lantern guards a traveler. Trust the light to lead you through the dark, not by banishing it, but by reminding you that awareness itself is always enough. And in that trust, rest not only the body, but the heart and the mind, steady in the glow of a flame that never truly goes out. And when the lantern of mindfulness glows through the dark, steady and unwavering, what it illuminates most clearly is the path back to the simplest and most faithful companion you have ever known. Beneath every thought, behind every worry, before every plan, there is breath. Silent, patient, unassuming, it has carried you through every moment of your life. The next phrase brings you home to it. Tonight I return to my breath, the first teacher, the last refuge. There is a reason breath is called the first teacher. From the moment of birth, the very first inhale announces life, and from then onward, breath never leaves you. It does not wait for your permission. It does not ask for your attention, yet it sustains every heartbeat, every movement, every word. Its constancy teaches presence without a single lesson spoken. To return to breath at night is to return to the most ancient wisdom already woven into your body, the wisdom that life is here, now, and that is enough. Breath teaches without words because it shows the truth of impermanence in every cycle. Inhale comes, and it must go. Exhale leaves, and it must return. Nothing is held, nothing is lost, everything flows. This rhythm is a teaching deeper than philosophy, deeper than any book. It reveals that life is a balance between receiving and letting go, and that both are necessary. To resist either is to suffer. To surrender to both is to find peace. When called the last refuge, breath becomes something more than biology. It is the one anchor you cannot lose until the final moment of life. No matter how chaotic the mind, no matter how shaken the heart, you can always return to the breath. Its presence cuts through noise, steadies fear, softens tension. When all else feels uncertain, when plans collapse, when nothing seems to hold, the breath remains. To return to it is to return to safety, not because it changes circumstances, but because it roots you in the only place where peace is ever possible, the present. At night, this return has special meaning. The day may have scattered your attention, pulled you in 100 directions, drained you with decisions and demands. Returning to breath is returning home. With each inhale, you reconnect with life itself. With each exhale, you release what no longer needs to be carried. Breath becomes the thread that gathers the pieces of you back together, weaving them into wholeness again. Science affirms what ancient traditions already knew. Conscious breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, calming the body, lowering blood pressure, releasing tension stored in muscles. Slow exhalations signal safety to the brain, reducing the stress hormones that keep you restless. Breath is not only spiritual refuge, but physiological refuge, a bridge between body and mind that restores balance when both feel unsettled. To return to it before sleep is to engage the body's natural capacity for peace. Breath is also the great equalizer. No matter your history, your achievements, your status, or your struggles, breath belongs to all equally. Kings and beggars, children and elders, all rely on the same rhythm. When you return to it, you step into a truth beyond identity, beyond separation. You remember that beneath all differences, life itself moves through everyone in the same way. This remembrance softens isolation, dissolves loneliness, and opens the heart to connection. Calling breath the first teacher honors its role in guiding you back to simplicity. In a world filled with complexity, information, and endless distraction, breath reminds you that peace is not complicated. It is as near as the rise and fall of your chest. You do not need to master advanced techniques or seek answers in distant places. You already carry the teacher within. Every breath is a lesson. Stay here, let go, begin again. As last refuge, breath becomes the sanctuary where no fear can fully overwhelm. Even when thoughts storm, even when emotions rage, you can return to breath and find stability. It is like the still center of a spinning wheel. No matter how fast the outer rim moves, the center remains calm. Your breath is that center. To return to it at night is to find stillness even as the mind spins. Breath also teaches humility. You do not control it entirely. You can guide it, slow it, deepen it, but you cannot command it to stop and still live. It comes and goes on its own, reminding you that life is a gift, not possession. To rest in breath is to bow to this truth with reverence. Each inhale is grace, each exhale surrender. Sleep itself is a deepening of this bow, a return to trust. There is another layer to this phrase. Breath links body and spirit. It is physical, yet it carries emotional and spiritual qualities. A deep sigh releases more than air. It releases weight from the heart. A held breath reveals tension, fear, or resistance. When you return to breath, you return not only to the body, but to the deeper layers of self that speak through it. Listening to breath is listening to life itself, whispering through you. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness of breathing has been called the gateway to liberation. It is simple, accessible, and profound. By watching the breath, you learn to watch the mind. By staying with the breath, you learn to stay with the present. Returning to it at night is not only for rest, it is for awakening. You train yourself to see clearly, to release attachment, to find refuge not in external circumstances, but in the living truth of your own awareness. Dreams, too, are shaped by this return. When you fall asleep with attention on breath, the quality of your dreams changes. They become lighter, more fluid, less burdened by unresolved stress. Breath carries peace into the subtle realms of mind, weaving rest through every layer of your being. You wake not only rested, but renewed, as though the night itself breathed life back into you. This phrase also speaks to gratitude. To call breath both teacher and refuge is to honor it, to recognize that something so constant, so easily overlooked, is sacred. Gratitude itself deepens peace. When you thank the breath, when you feel its presence as gift, you no longer rush past it. You savor it. And in that savoring, rest becomes richer, sleep becomes deeper, life becomes fuller. So tonight, let this phrase guide you. Return to your breath, not as duty, but as devotion. Let it teach you the simplicity of being here. Let it shelter you as refuge from fear, from thought, from weight. Trust its rhythm, follow its flow, rest in its constancy. Breath was your first companion, it will be your last, and in every moment between, it waits for you to remember. Tonight, return, and in that return, find the peace that has always been yours. And when the breath welcomes you back into its steady rhythm, when it teaches you presence and shelters you like a refuge, something deeper begins to stir beneath the surface of rest. It is not only peace that breath leaves behind, but also tenderness. Within the quiet of night, when nothing is demanded of you and no role must be played, the heart returns to its most natural state, compassion. The next phrase reminds you of this hidden truth. Even in sleep, compassion rests in my heart like a seed awaiting spring. There is a softness in these words that carries both comfort and power. Compassion is often thought of as action, helping, speaking, offering, doing. Yet compassion is not limited to action. It is a state of being, a seed planted in the heart that continues to live even when you are unaware of it. Sleep does not extinguish it. Dreams do not erase it. Compassion rests quietly, storing strength, waiting for the right season to bloom. To reflect on this before sleep is to trust that your goodness does not depend on constant effort. It is part of who you are. The image of a seed is important. A seed may look small, lifeless, even insignificant. Yet within it lies the potential for forests, for fields of flowers, for nourishment and shelter. Compassion in the heart is the same. Even when not visible, it contains immense power. Every act of kindness you perform, every gentle thought you hold, waters that seed. In the silence of night, when the world feels paused, the seed continues to rest, gathering quiet strength. Sleep, then, is not absence, but incubation. Just as the earth nurtures seeds beneath the soil through the cold months, your heart nurtures compassion in the silence of rest. When you wake, what was hidden emerges subtly, in patience with others, in softer words, in the choice to care instead of turning away. To repeat this phrase is to recognize that even in your stillness, life continues to grow within you. This teaching reshapes how you see yourself. Many believe they are only good when they are doing, only valuable when producing. But this phrase affirms that compassion is not performance. It is essence. You do not need to prove it or display it constantly. It is alive in you, even in sleep, quietly present, awaiting its moment. This awareness softens self-judgment, especially at night, when regrets often surface. You may not have been perfect today, but the seed of compassion remains intact, ready to grow again. There is also trust in this phrase. A seed cannot be forced open. It unfolds in its own time, guided by conditions, by warmth, by rain. Compassion too unfolds in its own time. You may not always feel overflowing with kindness. You may struggle with anger or fatigue, but that does not mean compassion has left you. It rests, it waits, it gathers. The heart knows its own seasons. To trust this is to release the pressure of always being perfect and instead to honor the natural rhythm of growth. Psychology echoes this wisdom. Studies show that compassion is not only an emotion, but also a trait, a quality that grows with practice and remains even when not consciously expressed. It becomes part of your baseline, influencing behavior subtly, shaping decisions quietly. Like a seed, it may not always be visible, but it is always alive. Sleep allows it to integrate, to settle deeper into the fabric of who you are. Compassion as a seed also reveals resilience. Seeds can endure long winters, harsh conditions, even years of dormancy, and still bloom when the season is right. Compassion in your heart is the same. Even after hardship, even after bitterness, the seed remains. It may seem hidden, but it is never gone. To rest with this phrase is to remember that no pain can fully erase your capacity for care. It may rest quietly, but it waits, ready to return. This truth also extends beyond the personal. Just as a single seed can grow into a tree that offers shade, fruit, and oxygen, compassion within you benefits not only yourself, but everyone you touch. Even when you are asleep, the seed is gathering energy that will one day extend outward. Your words, your actions, your presence tomorrow will carry the influence of what rested tonight. In this way, sleep becomes not selfish but generous, because it nourishes the seed that serves others as much as yourself. The phrase also speaks to hope. Seeds carry the promise of spring, no matter how long the winter. Compassion carries the promise of renewal, no matter how dark life feels. Even when the world seems harsh, even when cruelty seems louder, compassion remains alive within human hearts, waiting for the right conditions to bloom. To remember this before sleep is to remember that hope is not naive, it is natural. Life moves toward growth, and compassion is the deepest expression of that movement. In spiritual traditions, compassion is seen as the highest quality of the heart, the foundation of awakening. To know that it rests in you, even as you sleep, is to know that you are always connected to the deepest truth of life. You do not lose your path in the hours of rest. You continue to walk it in silence. The seed of compassion links you to the flow of life itself, reminding you that you are never separate, never without the potential for goodness. This phrase can also be lived as practice. As you lie down, place attention on the heart. Feel each breath as if it were watering the seed within. With each inhale, warmth gathers. With each exhale, the soil softens. You do not need to force compassion to grow. You only need to create the conditions for it to rest safely. This gentle attention is enough to ensure that when the time comes, the seed will sprout with strength. Over time, this nightly reflection transforms the way you wake. Instead of rising burdened by yesterday's struggles, you rise nourished by the quiet growth of compassion. The patience, understanding, and gentleness you extend in your day flow from the seed that rested in the night. You begin to see that compassion is not something you must constantly manufacture. It is something you allow, something that already lives within you. Even in dreams, This seed influences the mind. Studies of loving-kindness meditation show that it shapes not only waking thoughts, but also dream content, reducing nightmares, increasing positive imagery. When compassion rests in the heart, it colors the landscapes of the subconscious, softening fear, weaving tenderness into even the hidden corners of mind. And so this phrase is not only comfort, but promise. A promise that you are never without compassion, even when tired, even when asleep, even when unaware. It rests in you, alive, waiting. To sleep with this awareness is to sleep in trust, knowing that the best part of you is not lost in the night. It is growing quietly, like a seed awaiting spring. So tonight, let this phrase carry you. Know that compassion rests in your heart, not as demand, but as presence. Let it be watered by your breath, warmed by your rest, sheltered by your stillness. And when you wake, let it rise naturally, not forced, but blossoming in its season. For even in sleep, the seed is alive, and its spring will come. And when compassion is seen as a seed resting quietly within you, gathering its strength for the season of its flowering, the heart begins to understand that even in stillness, life continues. Sleep does not erase your essence, it nurtures it. But there is yet a deeper truth waiting to be remembered. You are more than the body that grows weary, more than the flesh that stretches and folds beneath the weight of the day. This is where the next phrase opens like a window into vastness. The body lies down, but awareness remains vast and boundless. The body must rest. It bends under gravity, grows tired with effort, and follows the cycles of nature that demand pause. Muscles loosen, bones sink into softness, the senses begin to dim. Yet what you truly are is not confined to this physical form. Awareness does not grow tired, it does not collapse into exhaustion. It remains untouched, spacious, alive, a sky that continues to hold everything, even as the body gives itself to rest. This phrase reminds you that lying down is not the end of presence. Awareness does not fade simply because the body is still. In fact, it can expand even more when you are not consumed by movement. Just as the ocean's depth is not disturbed when the waves calm, awareness reveals its vastness most clearly when the body lies quiet. To rest in this realization is to experience freedom, a sense that your true nature is not limited by muscle, bone, or breath. The teaching here dissolves the common belief that you are identical to your body. The body is part of you, yes, but it is not your entirety. It changes, ages, weakens, and eventually returns to the earth. Yet awareness, the capacity to know, to perceive, to be, remains boundless, not measured by years or confined by skin. To repeat this phrase at night is to step into that boundless space, to loosen the fear of loss, and to discover peace in what cannot be diminished. Modern science points toward this truth in subtle ways. Neuroscience shows that consciousness continues even in altered states. During dreams, deep meditation, or near-death experiences, awareness remains active beyond ordinary bodily limits. Though science cannot define it fully, it acknowledges that awareness is not simple matter. This echoes the wisdom of countless traditions that speak of mind as vast, luminous, unbounded. To rest in this perspective before sleep is to taste a freedom beyond physical limitation. The phrase also brings comfort to those who fear the vulnerability of lying down. Many resist sleep because it feels like losing control, like surrendering to an unknown that cannot be managed. But awareness does not vanish. Even in the deepest stages of sleep, awareness continues as the silent ground of being. To trust this is to let the body rest without fear, knowing that you are held by something larger than the body's fragility. There is humility in acknowledging the limits of the body and, at the same time, empowerment in recognizing the boundlessness of awareness. The body will always grow tired, but awareness does not exhaust. The body can be confined by space, but awareness is not bound by walls or distance. The body may weaken with age, but awareness remains luminous, unmeasured. To recognize this is to find an identity deeper than flesh, an identity that cannot be taken. This phrase is also an invitation to practice detachment. So much suffering comes from over-identifying with the body, clinging to youth, fearing illness, resisting change. But when you know that awareness is vast and boundless, you begin to release that clinging. You still care for the body with love, but you do not mistake it for the entirety of your being. This creates freedom, not detachment from life, but detachment from fear. At night, this understanding transforms rest. Instead of collapsing into unconsciousness, you can allow yourself to rest in awareness, even as the body sleeps. Meditation traditions speak of sleeping with awareness, where the body rests deeply, but the mind remains clear, vast, at peace. This is not a mystical achievement, but a natural extension of remembering that awareness does not depend on the body's activity. With practice, sleep itself becomes a doorway into boundless presence. The phrase also has implications for how you meet suffering. Physical pain, tension, or illness can dominate experience, but awareness remains larger than sensation. When you shift attention from pain to the space that holds it, the suffering lessens. Pain is real, but it is not infinite. Awareness is always greater. This recognition brings resilience, a reminder that you are not confined by what the body feels in a single moment. There is beauty, too, in knowing that awareness is not personal alone. It connects you to the larger flow of life. Just as the sky above holds every bird, cloud, and star, awareness holds every experience within and around you. To rest in it is to feel connected, not isolated. The body lies down as one, but awareness joins you to all. This dissolves loneliness, reminding you that the vastness you touch at night is the same vastness in every living being. This phrase can also serve as a meditation. As you prepare for sleep, notice the body resting, its weight sinking into the bed. Then gently shift attention to awareness itself, the space in which the body is felt. Notice that this space has no boundary, no edge, no limit. Rest in that boundlessness, trusting it to hold you as the body surrenders to rest. The more you return to this, the less fear grips you, and the more peace deepens. Over time, practicing with this phrase reshapes identity. Instead of defining yourself only by body or mind, you begin to sense yourself as awareness itself, vast and unbound. This shifts how you meet challenges, aging, even death. The body may falter, but the essence of awareness remains. To live with this perspective is to live with freedom, and to rest with it at night is to sleep with peace. So tonight, let this phrase guide you. The body lies down, but awareness remains vast and boundless. Trust the body to rest and let awareness open. Feel the spaciousness that is already here, larger than fear, larger than struggle, larger than the limits of flesh. Rest not only in sleep, but in boundless presence, where the true self remains untouched, luminous, and free. And when the body lies down, while awareness remains vast and without boundary, a new kind of clarity begins to show itself. In that openness, worries no longer feel as solid as before. They begin to move differently, lighter, less permanent. This is where the next phrase offers its gentle truth. As clouds drift across the moon, so do my worries across the mind. There is relief in this teaching, for it reminds you that worries are not fixed objects, but passing movements. A cloud can cover the moon for a while, but it never touches the moon itself. The moon remains unchanged, shining steadily behind every veil. In the same way, worries may pass through awareness, casting shadows for a time, but they do not alter your true nature. Your clarity, like the moon, continues to glow. The practice is not to fight the clouds, but to see them for what they are, temporary visitors. Worries often feel endless because the mind grasps at them, holding them in place. When you replay an argument, anticipate a problem, or cling to regret, you turn drifting clouds into immovable walls. Yet no worry is permanent by itself. The nature of thought is movement. It only becomes heavy when you hold it tightly. To repeat this phrase is to remind yourself of that truth, to loosen the grip and let thoughts flow as they were always meant to. The moon in this image is not only a symbol of clarity, but of steadiness. Across cultures, the moon has been seen as a guide in darkness, a source of calm light. Its surface may look marked, its glow may be hidden, but it never disappears. Worries cannot erase it. Your awareness is the same. Even when obscured by fear, the core of your mind remains luminous, waiting for the clouds to pass. To trust this is to live with less fear of thought itself. Psychology explains this process in modern terms. Cognitive science shows that thoughts are transient mental events, lasting only seconds unless they are reinforced by attention. Worries survive by repetition. If you allow them to drift, they dissolve. This aligns perfectly with the metaphor of clouds. You do not need to destroy them. You only need to stop chasing them. With patience, they move on their own. There is a lesson here in patience. Clouds never hurry. They move in their own time, shaped by winds you cannot see. Worries, too, fade when conditions change, often beyond your control. You cannot command the sky to clear, but you can trust that it will. Similarly, you cannot always erase worry instantly, but you can rest in the faith that it will not last. This trust brings calm, even when the sky of mind feels crowded. The phrase also calls for gentleness toward yourself. Many people judge themselves harshly for worrying, believing they should have perfect calm. But clouds in the sky are natural, and so are worries in the mind. To see them as drifting clouds is to remove judgment, to recognize that worry is simply part of the weather of being human. This compassion toward yourself allows the clouds to move without resistance, instead of being locked in place by self-criticism. Nighttime is often when worries gather most, circling in the stillness. The day's distractions are gone, leaving the mind exposed. This phrase becomes especially powerful then. By repeating it, you give yourself a new perspective. Instead of drowning in thoughts, you picture them drifting. Instead of fearing their weight, you rest in the light behind them. Slowly, the grip loosens, the body relaxes, and rest becomes possible. The moon also symbolizes continuity. Even when hidden, it remains whole. In the same way, your true self is not broken by worry. To know this is to feel stronger than the storms of thought. Worries may alter how things look for a time, but they cannot damage what is real. The moon shines whether or not you see it. Awareness endures whether or not you feel it. This recognition dissolves fear of the mind's movements. The phrase encourages a shift from control to observation. You cannot control clouds, and you cannot control every thought. But you can observe both, letting them pass without interference. Observation brings freedom because it breaks the illusion that you must manage everything. When you rest as the moon, you no longer panic at clouds. You let them drift, knowing they are temporary by nature. This teaching also reveals the importance of perspective. If you stand close to a cloud, it seems overwhelming. From a plane above, it looks small, even delicate. Worries feel crushing when you are inside them, but from the vantage point of awareness, they are light and passing. This phrase invites you to take that higher view, to step back into the vastness within and watch the movement without fear. Science supports this shift of perspective too. Practices like mindfulness-based stress reduction train the brain to observe thoughts rather than fuse with them. Brain scans show reduced activity in regions linked to rumination when people learn to let thoughts pass. The ancient metaphor of clouds reflects the same truth. The mind can learn to watch without clinging, and in that watching, suffering eases. There is also beauty in the metaphor itself. Clouds can be dark, but they are also shaped by light, turning pink at sunset, glowing silver at night. Worries, too, can carry hidden lessons. They may reveal where you care deeply, where healing is needed, where growth is possible. To see them as clouds is not only to let them pass, but also to see their fleeting beauty before they dissolve. This phrase is not just for sleep, but for life. In moments of stress, when the mind is crowded, recalling that worries are clouds keeps you from being trapped. You return to the moon within, the steady awareness untouched by storms. You realize that clarity is never lost, only hidden. This realization builds resilience, teaching you to meet difficulties without collapsing beneath them. At night, this practice becomes a lullaby for the mind. Each worry that rises is noted, seen as cloud, and allowed to move on. Slowly, the sky of mind clears, not because the worries are solved, but because they are no longer held. Sleep arrives when the moon is allowed to shine, when awareness glows without obstruction. So tonight, let this phrase guide you. Let worries drift like clouds, soft and passing. Let the moon of your awareness shine steady, unbroken. Rest not in fear of thought, but in the truth that nothing can obscure your light for long. Clouds move, worries pass, and what remains is clarity, waiting for you to see it again. And when worries are seen as clouds drifting across the steady glow of the moon, the mind learns that peace is not found in resistance, but in letting things move as they will. This prepares the heart for an even deeper lesson, one that carries you further into the quiet of night. The night does not ask for effort, only surrender. These words carry a truth often forgotten. The day demands effort. It asks you to work, to plan, to respond, to achieve. Every hour is filled with tasks and choices that require your energy. But the night is different. It does not demand more doing. It asks you to lay down what you have carried and to trust what you cannot control. Sleep is not earned by force. It comes when you release. The night receives you as you are, without needing to prove anything. Surrender here does not mean weakness. It means trust. It is a willingness to let go of the constant pushing that defines waking life. The mind often carries the same habits into the dark, planning tomorrow, replaying mistakes, trying to solve problems long past the time for solutions. This restless effort becomes the very reason sleep slips away. To whisper this phrase is to remind yourself that rest is not achieved by effort, but by surrender. Biology supports this wisdom. The body knows how to sleep. Hormones release, temperature shifts, cycles of brain waves prepare for rest. None of this requires your control. It happens when you stop interfering. The harder you try to sleep, the further sleep drifts. The night needs no struggle, only space to unfold. Surrender is alignment with what the body already knows. This phrase also softens the illusion that rest must be earned. Many carry guilt into bed, believing they have not done enough, have not achieved enough, do not deserve ease. But the night does not judge. It offers itself freely. Surrender is not permission from the outside. It is a gift you give yourself. To rest is not selfish. It is natural, necessary, part of the rhythm of life. Surrender also reveals itself in the way nature rests. Trees do not force their leaves to fall. The season carries them. Rivers do not strain to reach the ocean. Gravity guides them. In the same way, the night carries you if you allow it. Effort resists. Surrender flows. To align with this flow is to rediscover peace that effort alone can never bring. At a deeper level, this surrender touches the heart of spiritual practice. Effort is the language of ego, striving to control, to define, to accomplish. Surrender is the language of trust, acknowledging that you are part of something larger, that life supports you even when you let go. To rest in this awareness at night is to practice faith, not in doctrine, but in the simple truth that life continues without your constant management. Psychology reflects this too. Studies on insomnia reveal that performance anxiety, the effort of trying to sleep, is one of the greatest obstacles to rest. Therapies that teach acceptance rather than effort restore sleep by shifting focus from control to surrender. The body knows, the mind must trust. The phrase distills this research into a gentle reminder. The night asks nothing but release. There is humility in this teaching. Effort is tied to pride. the belief that only through constant striving can life unfold. Surrender reveals the limits of that pride. You cannot will your heart to beat, your cells to heal, your brain to restore itself. These happen when you step back. The night reminds you of this truth with every breath. Each inhale is taken in, each exhale released, without your command. Rest flows from the same mystery. This phrase also helps release the day's weight. Effort belongs to daylight, its choices, its struggles, its demands. To carry that effort into the night is to carry a burden that has already ended. Surrender means setting it down, letting the day dissolve, trusting that what was left undone will be met tomorrow. Peace is found not in completion, but in release. Surrender, however, is not passive. It is active trust. It is the choice to release fear, to soften the grip of control, to rest in the rhythm of life itself. This choice is not lazy, it is courageous. To stop striving in a world that glorifies effort takes strength. To rest in stillness when the mind demands action takes wisdom. The night teaches this wisdom daily if you let it. In practice, this phrase can become a nightly ritual. As you lie in bed, feel the body's weight against the surface. Notice the tendency of the mind to push, to plan, to grasp. Then repeat softly, "The night does not ask for effort, only surrender." With each repetition, feel the grip loosen. Allow the body to sink, the breath to deepen, the mind to soften. You are not asked to do more, you are asked to let go. Over time, this practice reshapes how you live, not only how you sleep. When surrender becomes familiar, the habit of over-effort weakens. You meet challenges with more calm, more trust. You learn to distinguish between when effort is needed and when release is wiser. The night becomes your teacher, reminding you that balance is found not in endless striving, but in knowing when to yield. The phrase also touches the mystery of life itself. Just as you surrender to sleep each night, you will one day surrender the body in death. This truth, though heavy, is softened by nightly practice. Each surrender to rest becomes a rehearsal for the greater surrender, teaching you that letting go is not destruction, but return. Fear of endings lessens when you learn that surrender holds you, that release is not loss, but peace. So tonight, let this phrase guide you. The day has asked for effort, and you have given it. Now the night asks for nothing but surrender. Trust the body, trust the breath, trust the rhythm that has carried you since birth. Lay it down, let go. Rest not through struggle, but through release. For the night does not demand more, it simply receives you, just as you are. And when the night reveals that effort is no longer needed, when the body is invited to rest through surrender rather than striving, the mind naturally begins to loosen its grip. Yet often, just as surrender seems possible, thoughts leap forward into what has not yet come. Tomorrow's tasks, tomorrow's fears, tomorrow's unknowns rise and steal the stillness. This is why the next phrase matters so deeply. I let go of tomorrow's unknowns, for the present night is complete. There is a quiet strength in acknowledging that tomorrow is not yours to hold. The unknown has always stirred unease. The mind wants certainty, but certainty is not given. Plans may shift. Events may unfold differently than expected, and outcomes are never guaranteed. To carry the weight of these unknowns into the night is to burden yourself with what does not yet exist. The phrase offers freedom from that trap. It teaches you that the present night is already whole, already enough, already complete. Completion here is not about perfection. It is about acceptance. The day has ended. Its actions are sealed. Its lessons have been given. Nothing more can be added to it, nothing undone. To see the night as complete is to stop resisting what is finished and to stop grasping for what has not yet begun. It is to rest fully in the space between, where peace becomes possible. The unknowns of tomorrow are endless. They can stretch into countless what-ifs that spiral endlessly in the mind. Yet most of them will never come to pass. Studies show that the vast majority of worries imagined never happen, yet the stress they generate is real, robbing the body of rest and the mind of clarity. To let go of tomorrow's unknowns is not denial, it is wisdom. It is choosing not to live in a future that has not arrived while neglecting the peace available in the present night. This phrase also softens the illusion that peace depends on solving every problem. The mind believes rest is only possible once everything is planned, controlled, and resolved. But life has never worked this way. Tomorrow will always carry uncertainty. To make peace conditional on certainty is to postpone peace forever. By declaring that tonight is complete, you allow rest now, without waiting for a future that will never offer total control. Spiritual traditions across time have echoed this teaching. In Buddhism, there is the emphasis on just this moment, the recognition that past and future exist only as thought. In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus spoke of focusing only on what is within your power and releasing what is not. The phrase unites these truths. Tomorrow is beyond your grasp, but tonight is here. Resting in tonight is resting in reality itself. Science affirms this wisdom too. Sleep studies reveal that preoccupation with the future is one of the leading causes of insomnia. Anticipatory anxiety keeps the nervous system in a state of alertness, preventing the deep rest the body needs. By redirecting focus to the present, feeling the bed beneath you, the breath moving through you, you calm the body, signaling safety. Letting go of tomorrow is not avoidance. It is creating the physiological conditions that allow true rest. The idea of completion is healing in itself. Many end the day feeling unfinished, believing more should have been done, more achieved, more resolved. But to declare the night complete is to accept your humanity. You gave what you could. You lived what you lived. The day does not need to be perfect to be whole. To see it this way is to replace self-judgment with compassion, to allow yourself to rest not because everything is finished, but because you are enough. This phrase also speaks to trust. Trust that tomorrow will carry its own answers, its own opportunities, its own strength. You do not need to anticipate every detail tonight. The future unfolds when it arrives, not before. To cling to it now is to carry unnecessary weight. Letting it go is not negligence. It is alignment with reality. Trust allows you to sleep because trust tells you that you do not need to hold everything at once. There is beauty in the word unknowns. It acknowledges mystery. Life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Unknowns are not only threats, they are also possibilities, opportunities, surprises. By releasing them at night, you open to receiving them as they come, without the distortion of fear. Sleep becomes the space where you prepare not by planning, but by renewing. At night, this practice becomes deeply practical. As thoughts of tomorrow rise, you repeat the phrase, "I let go of tomorrow's unknowns." Each time, the grip loosens. Each time, the body softens. Each time, you return to the present night, which asks nothing more than your rest. With practice, this phrase becomes a bridge, carrying you from restless anticipation into the stillness of presence. Over time, it reshapes the way you live. By learning nightly to let go of unknowns, you begin to carry less anxiety into the day. You meet uncertainty with more calm because you have rehearsed trust in the dark. You realize that peace does not come from knowing everything, but from living fully in what is given now. This habit strengthens resilience, making you less shaken by change and more open to life as it is. This phrase also honors the sacredness of rest. The night is not a pause before tomorrow. It is a chapter of life in itself. To see it as complete is to value it, to honor it as much as the hours of daylight. Rest is not preparation for living. It is living. To embrace the night as complete is to embrace the fullness of existence, both active and still. So tonight, let this phrase hold you. Release tomorrow. Release the unknown. Let the present night be enough. Whole in its silence, perfect in its simplicity. Rest not in effort, but in trust. For the night is complete, and in its completeness you are free to sleep without weight. And when tomorrow's unknowns are finally released, when the mind bows to the truth that tonight is already whole, a deeper silence begins to emerge. In that silence, something more ancient and steady rises. A voice without sound, a truth that has guided countless seekers through the ages. It comes not as a command, but as a whisper, subtle yet unmistakable. The Dharma whispers softly, all is changing, and in change there is rest. This phrase carries a paradox that holds the essence of peace. Change is usually the very thing the mind resists. It clings to what it loves. It fears what it might lose. It struggles against endings. Yet this whisper reveals that change itself is not the enemy. It is the doorway to rest. To see change clearly is to stop fighting the natural rhythm of life. When the heart stops resisting, exhaustion eases, and rest becomes possible. Change is the one truth that life never betrays. Every breath, every moment, every season, every life rises and falls. Nothing remains fixed, and that is not tragedy, but the foundation of renewal. The tree sheds leaves so that new ones may grow. The tide pulls away so that it may return. Day dissolves into night so that life can pause. Change is the great equalizer, shaping all things. To align with it is to align with reality itself. What makes change heavy is resistance. The mind longs for permanence where none exists, trying to preserve youth, freeze relationships, or control outcomes. This clinging turns change into suffering. But when the Dharma is heard, even softly, the truth becomes liberating. You do not need to hold anything still. Life flows, and in that flow is rest. You rest because you no longer have to battle the inevitable. The whisper of Dharma is not dramatic. It does not shout or force itself. It arrives quietly, like wind through leaves, like water over stone. It is subtle because it is always present, woven into every experience. You do not have to seek it far away. It is in the rise of your breath, in the fading of each thought, in the shifting of the body as it lies down to sleep. Everything is already whispering. All is changing. To hear this is to soften, to allow, to rest. Psychology reflects the same truth. Research shows that one of the greatest sources of stress is intolerance of uncertainty, the refusal to accept change. But those who cultivate acceptance, who allow for shifting circumstances, experience greater resilience and lower anxiety. To resist change is to exhaust yourself. To accept it is to recover strength. Rest, then, is not found in controlling life, but in yielding to its flow. The Dharma also teaches that change is not random. It follows patterns, rhythms, causes, and conditions. When something fades, it makes room for something else. When one chapter closes, another begins. This understanding transforms fear into perspective. Endings are not void, they are transitions. Even in pain, change carries the seed of renewal. To rest in this view is to stop fearing every shift, to start trusting the wider rhythm of existence. At night, this phrase becomes especially powerful. The mind often clings to the day, replaying moments, trying to hold on or rewrite what has already passed. But the day is already gone. It has changed into memory. To hear the Dharma whisper is to let it dissolve. Likewise, the future is not yet formed. It, too, will change before it arrives. Rest comes when you no longer hold past or future tightly, but let both flow, knowing that change is carrying them already. There is humility in this practice. Change reminds you that you are not the center of the universe, that life is larger than your will. And yet, there is comfort too. You are carried by the same currents that carry stars and oceans. The weight you feel is not yours to hold alone. To recognize this is to release the illusion of control, to surrender into the larger pattern. That surrender is the heart of rest. The Dharma's whisper also points to impermanence, not as loss, but as tenderness. Because everything changes, everything matters. Every smile, every touch, every breath is precious because it cannot last. To resist this truth is to live in fear. To embrace it is to live in gratitude. At night, when you recall this, the day softens. Its imperfections matter less. Its moments shine brighter. Rest arrives when gratitude replaces clinging. This phrase can be lived as a meditation. As you lie in bed, notice the flow of breath, changing with each cycle. Notice thoughts rising and fading. Notice sensations shifting in the body. Each moment is evidence of change. Whisper inwardly, all is changing, and in change there is rest. Let the body feel it. Let the mind release into it. Slowly, the need to resist loosens, and rest deepens naturally. Over time, this nightly practice reshapes the way you meet life. Change no longer feels like threat, but like truth. you begin to see it everywhere, not with fear, but with openness. You learn to let go more quickly, to adapt more gently, to trust more deeply. You stop demanding permanence and start living fully in the flow. Rest is no longer limited to night. It becomes a way of being. So tonight, let the Dharma whisper to you. Let it remind you that all is changing and that this is not loss, but liberation. In change, you are freed from clinging. In change, you are freed from fear. In change, you are carried into rest. Let the whisper be enough. Let it guide you. Let it soothe you. For when you hear it clearly, you will know peace is not found in holding still, but in letting life flow exactly as it does. And when the Dharma whispers that all is changing and you begin to rest in that flow instead of resisting it, something even more intimate reveals itself in the quiet rhythm of breath. Change is not only happening around you, it is happening through you with every inhale and exhale. In that simple act, the truth of impermanence becomes living experience. The next phrase gives voice to this truth in a way that honors both the body and the spirit. Every breath I release is a bow to freedom. There is a humility in this statement, because each exhale is both surrender and reverence. Breath is not something you own. It arrives, sustains you for a moment, and departs. To bow with each release is to acknowledge that nothing is truly yours to hold, not even the air in your lungs. Freedom begins here, in the willingness to let go. The bow is not performed with hands or body, but with awareness that honors impermanence each time breath leaves you. This phrase connects release with liberation. Most people think of freedom as gaining, acquiring, or controlling. Yet true freedom often comes from letting go. When you exhale, you are not diminished, you are renewed. The lungs empty, the body softens, the mind clears. With every release, you are reminded that clinging is not survival, that emptiness is not loss, and that surrender is not defeat. Each breath you let go is an act of trust that life will give again. Biology itself reflects this truth. The body cannot live on inhalation alone. Oxygen sustains, but it is exhalation that clears waste, balances systems, and allows new air to enter. To hold the breath endlessly would bring suffocation, not safety. This mirrors the spiritual teaching. Clinging brings suffering, release brings life. Every exhale is both a physical cleansing and a symbolic one, a bow to the freedom that only comes with letting go. The act of bowing gives this phrase even deeper meaning. A bow is a gesture of humility, respect, and surrender. By framing each breath as a bow, you transform something automatic into something sacred. You are no longer just breathing, you are honoring the truth of impermanence, paying respect to the rhythm of life, and practicing liberation moment by moment. This awareness elevates breathing from a survival mechanism to a spiritual practice. Freedom here is not abstract. It is the release from burdens carried too long. With each exhale, you can let go of worry, anger, regret, and fear. You do not need to solve them all at once. You only need to release them breath by breath, allowing them to dissolve little by little. The bow is not to an external deity, but to the freedom already present within you, the freedom that waits whenever you unclench the grip of holding. This practice also reshapes your relationship with control. So much energy is spent trying to control life, yet every breath proves that life is beyond your command. You do not control its arrival. You do not control its departure. Breath moves through you by grace. To bow with each release is to align with this truth, to recognize that freedom is not found in mastery, but in cooperation with what already is. In Buddhist tradition, bowing is often part of daily practice, not as submission, but as a way of dissolving ego. Each bow lowers the self, honors the moment, and opens the heart. When you frame every breath as such a bow, you are continually softening ego, continually honoring impermanence, continually aligning with freedom. It becomes less about ritual and more about living awareness, your body itself practicing liberation with every cycle. At night, this phrase becomes a balm for restlessness. Thoughts race, anxieties tighten, and the body feels tense. But when you focus on exhalation as a bow, tension eases. The mind shifts from holding to releasing. Sleep comes more naturally, not as a forced escape, but as the deep rest that follows surrender. Each exhale becomes a step closer to stillness, each bow a movement toward peace. Over time, this practice creates lasting transformation. Breathing with awareness of freedom trains the mind to meet life differently. You become less reactive, less clinging, less fearful. Situations that once felt overwhelming are met with more space because you have rehearsed letting go countless times. Freedom becomes not a future goal, but a present reality, practiced with every breath. This phrase also expands compassion. When you bow with each exhale, you not only release your own burdens, but also create space for others. Freedom is not only personal, it is shared. Your calm presence, your softened heart, your released tension ripple outward, easing the lives of those around you. In this way, your breathing becomes a gift. Science supports this subtle power. Studies on slow, mindful exhalation show its effect on heart rate, nervous system balance, and emotional regulation. It calms the fight or flight response, fosters clarity, and increases feelings of connection. The body itself affirms what the phrase teaches. Every breath released truly is a bow to freedom. There is also a reminder of mortality in this practice, and it is not grim, but grounding. One day, your final exhale will come, and it will be the last bow. To honor each breath now is to prepare for that moment with grace. When the time arrives, it will not feel foreign. It will feel like the final movement in a practice you have lived each day. This awareness deepens gratitude, making each exhale precious, each bow sincere. So tonight, let this phrase guide you. As you breathe out, feel the body soften, the grip loosen, the weight lift. Whisper inwardly, "Every breath I release is a bow to freedom." Let the bow be humble. Let it be reverent. Let it be enough. In this simple rhythm, you are practicing liberation, moment by moment, breath by breath, surrendering into the freedom that has always been waiting within you. And when every breath released becomes a bow to freedom, the body and mind begin to loosen their grip on the day. In that rhythm of letting go, space opens for a softer transition, a movement from effort into quiet. Freedom is not loud. It is not a triumph that shouts. It is more like a sound that slowly disappears, leaving behind stillness so complete it feels sacred. This is where the next phrase guides you with its delicate truth. Like a bell fading into silence, may my mind fade into peace. There is something profoundly tender in this image. A bell does not stop suddenly. Its sound lingers, echoing outward, softening as it spreads, until silence embraces it fully. The mind is the same. Thoughts and worries rarely vanish instantly. They fade gradually, if given permission. To wish for your mind to fade like a bell is to honor the natural rhythm of release, to allow peace to arrive gently instead of demanding it as an immediate state. This phrase teaches patience with the process of quieting. So often, people grow frustrated when thoughts do not stop on command. They force stillness, turning meditation or rest into another struggle. But the bell shows another way. It fades because it is allowed to. It does not fight its echo, it simply softens over time. The mind, too, can soften if you do not resist its movement. Peace comes not through force, but through gentle fading. The bell also symbolizes clarity. Its sound is pure, resonant, unmistakable. Yet even clarity dissolves into silence. This reflects the truth that even the sharpest thoughts, the loudest emotions, eventually dissolve. Nothing lasts forever, not even noise within the mind. To trust this is to discover rest. You no longer need to fear the mind's activity because you know it cannot remain. Like the bell, it will fade. There is humility here as well. A bell does not cling to its sound, it lets it go. The mind often clings, replaying, repeating, amplifying. But to echo the bell is to practice non-attachment. Each thought rings for a time, then releases. To allow this rhythm is to live in alignment with impermanence. The sound of thought is not wrong, it is simply passing. Silence is always waiting to receive it. Psychology affirms this process. The human brain is wired to produce thought, to anticipate, to recall. Trying to stop it altogether is unnatural. What brings peace is shifting relationship to thought, allowing it to fade rather than grasping it tightly. Practices of mindfulness and meditation mirror this phrase exactly, guiding people to watch thought like sound, to notice it arise, expand, and dissolve. The bell metaphor captures this perfectly. Sound comes, expands, fades. Thought comes, expands, fades. At night, this phrase becomes a powerful guide. The day's noise echoes in the mind, conversations, decisions, unfinished tasks. Instead of fighting them, you let them fade like the sound of a bell. You repeat the phrase, softening into its rhythm. Gradually, the echoes diminish. Silence deepens. Peace arises, not forced, but natural. Sleep follows, not as escape, but as the silence that always waits beneath the noise. The phrase also touches something sacred about silence itself. In many traditions, silence is not emptiness, but fullness. It holds potential, depth, presence. When the bell fades, silence does not mean nothingness. It means arrival at something larger than sound. When the mind fades, peace is not absence. It is presence, vast and profound. To let your mind fade into peace is to step into that sacred silence where rest is whole and undisturbed. The bell also carries symbolic resonance across cultures. In temples, bells mark the transition between states, between activity and prayer, between distraction and mindfulness. Their fading sound is meant to draw attention inward, to awaken awareness. This phrase calls upon that same symbolism. As your mind fades into peace, you are entering transition from the effort of the day into the stillness of night, from the turbulence of thought into the openness of rest. Biologically, this transition is mirrored in the nervous system. The shift from alertness to rest is gradual. Brainwaves move from faster patterns into slower rhythms. The body releases tension bit by bit. The bell metaphor describes this perfectly. A gradual unwinding, a soft descent into stillness. To align with this rhythm is to support the body's natural processes, not resist them. The beauty of this phrase is its gentleness. It does not demand peace immediately. It honors the process of fading. This gentleness itself creates peace. When you stop demanding the mind to be silent, it quiets more easily. When you stop resisting thought, it dissolves naturally. Peace is found not in force, but in allowing. This phrase also invites reverence. To compare the mind's fading to a bell is to treat it with respect, not frustration. Even your thoughts, even your worries, can be seen as sound, temporary, meaningful, and then gone. By honoring them instead of hating them, you free yourself from inner conflict. The fading becomes beautiful, not a battle. Over time, practicing this phrase at night changes your relationship with peace itself. You stop seeing peace as a distant goal to reach. You start experiencing it as a natural silence waiting behind sound. Every time the bell fades, silence is revealed. Every time thought fades, peace is revealed. The truth was never absent. It was only obscured. So tonight, let this phrase carry you. May your mind fade like a bell, soft, lingering, dissolving. May the silence that follows be peace, deep and steady. Do not rush the fading. Let it unfold. Let peace arrive not as conquest, but as the natural quiet that has always been waiting for you. And when the mind is allowed to fade like a bell into silence, what remains is a presence both tender and steady. Peace settles not as an absence, but as a fullness, a stillness that feels like being carried. In that quiet, gratitude begins to arise naturally. The body, once restless, finds support. The heart, once burdened, feels held. And so the next phrase offers its gentle reminder. This bed is a lotus, and I rest upon it with gratitude. There is beauty in seeing the bed not as an ordinary object, but as a sacred space. The lotus has always symbolized purity and awakening, rising unstained from muddy waters. To call the bed a lotus is to transform the act of lying down into something more than routine. It becomes a practice of reverence. You are not merely collapsing into sleep. You are entering a space of renewal, a sanctuary where rest itself becomes a form of awakening. Gratitude is the key that unlocks this transformation. Too often, the bed is taken for granted, seen only as a tool or even a battlefield when sleep is difficult. But when you rest with gratitude, everything changes. You recognize the softness beneath you, the safety of shelter around you, the gift of stillness offered freely. Gratitude shifts the heart from lack to abundance, from tension to ease. It makes the bed not just a place to sleep, but a lotus of blessing. The lotus also teaches resilience. It grows in mud, yet blossoms untouched, pure and radiant. Resting upon the bed with gratitude is the same practice. No matter how muddy the day has been, with stress, mistakes, or pain, you can still rest in purity tonight. The bed does not demand perfection. It holds you as you are, allowing you to rise renewed, just as the lotus rises from murky waters each morning to bloom again. Science reflects the power of gratitude as well. Studies show that people who practice gratitude before sleep fall asleep faster, experience deeper rest, and wake more refreshed. Gratitude calms the nervous system, reduces overthinking, and fosters positive emotion. When you rest with gratitude, the body releases tension, the mind shifts toward peace, and sleep becomes more restorative. Gratitude is not only spiritual, it is biological medicine. This phrase also invites humility. To rest with gratitude is to acknowledge dependence, that you are supported by more than your own effort. Countless hands and conditions make your rest possible. The people who built the bed, the workers who made the fabric, the roof above, the silence of night. Gratitude expands awareness outward, reminding you that even in rest, you are connected to others, carried by the world. This humility deepens peace, for it replaces isolation with connection. The bed as lotus is also a reminder that rest itself can be practice. Just as meditation is not only sitting, but cultivating awareness, rest is not only sleep, but cultivating gratitude. When you see the bed as lotus, you honor rest as sacred, as essential to wholeness. Each night becomes not a pause between days, but a practice in itself, a return to presence, humility, and renewal. At night, this phrase changes how you enter sleep. Instead of collapsing with fatigue or frustration, you lie down with reverence. You feel the fabric, the weight of blankets, the support beneath your body. You breathe into gratitude, letting it soften muscles, release tension, and quiet the mind. Rest becomes less about escaping the day and more about honoring the gift of being alive. The lotus image also carries hope. Even if the day was heavy, even if the mind feels muddy, the bed remains a lotus, a place where purity can be touched again. Gratitude cleanses the residue of the day, reminding you that you are not defined by what has passed. Each night is a chance to begin again, to rise tomorrow unstained, renewed, ready to bloom. Over time, this practice reshapes how you see ordinary life. Gratitude for the bed extends to gratitude for small moments everywhere. The chair that holds you, the meal that nourishes you, the silence that soothes you. Seeing the sacred in the ordinary becomes natural. Life itself becomes a lotus, and you rest upon it with gratitude not only at night, but in every moment. So tonight, let this phrase guide you. Let the bed become a lotus, a symbol of renewal and purity. Rest upon it, not with indifference, but with gratitude. Feel the support, honor the stillness, bow to the gift of rest. In that gratitude, peace deepens, and the night becomes more than sleep. It becomes awakening through stillness. And so we come to the end of this journey through the 7 Buddhist phrases for peace before bed. Each one has carried us a little deeper into stillness, teaching us how to release control, how to let worries drift, how to honor breath, how to rest in compassion, how to embrace change, how to bow with each exhale, and finally, how to lie down in gratitude as if the bed itself were a lotus. Together, these words are more than phrases. They are gentle lanterns guiding you from the noise of the day into the sanctuary of night. If one of these phrases touched your heart tonight, let it be known. Write it in the comments. Share which teaching you'll carry with you, not just into sleep, but into life. Your words might be the ripple that inspires someone else's peace. And if this practice has brought you even a moment of calm, I invite you to stay connected. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell so that each week you'll return to more teachings, more guidance, more ways to live with clarity and rest. Together, let's keep building this community of peace, one night, one breath, one phrase at a time.